Jeter, District 1.
Here.
Mr. Tipton, District 2.
Here.
Mr. Herron, District 3.
Here.
Mr. Bricky, District 4.
Here.
Mr. Mann, District 5.
Here.
Ms. Hood, District 6.
Here.
Ms. Addington at large.
Here.
All right, thank you, ma'am. With that, next item is item number 4, approve the agenda. Do we have anything to amend on it, Ms. Thomas?
I do have 2 items to add. Item 15B, a RIPA resolution, and item 15C, ARPA projects.
Okay. Need a motion to approve the agenda as amended. Do we have a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Mr. Tipton made a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Hood, second. Any discussion? All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next item, approve the minutes from April the 5th, 2023. I hope you had a chance to look at it. If so, we need a motion to approve the minutes as presented to you. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
All right, Mr. Herron made a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Tipton, second. Any discussion? All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I abstain.
Mr. Jeter abstained. Okay. Next item is the citizen expression period, and we have quite a bit on the agenda. So if you're not on the agenda, you encourage you to come. If you're on the agenda, just hold till we get to you. So the citizen expression period. Let me read this quick statement. It's a period is a point of meeting when anyone who wishes to address the board or staff may do so. If you wish to speak, please come to the podium and state your name, where you're from in the county, and or what organization you represent. The board may or may not respond to anything you say, but we will take everything you say into account when making future decisions. Please keep your comments concise and business-like. If no one has signed up to speak, have them, Ms. Starnes.
They have not.
We have no particular order. We just ask that you take turns and speak your business. Any action will be considered after we close this expression. With that, this expression is now open. Good morning.
I want to go over the, I'm Sheriff Jeff Eads, from Scott County Sheriff's Office. We'll take a few minutes here for this. It's our quarterly stats. I thought y'all might want to hear something about. From January 1st through March 31st, Scott County Dispatch received a total of 15,606 calls. Of those calls received, we were dispatched to the Sheriff's Office. We had a total calls and protective orders for this 3-month period of 42. Criminal papers served this period were 1,046 with 713 felonies, 319 misdemeanors, 69 drug charges, and 8 driving under the influence related charges. Officers issued 257 traffic summonses and was dispatched to 85 motor vehicles. Civil process for this period, we served 1,302 civil papers. There was 452 IPRs, incident-based reports, with 118 closed arrests. The Sheriff's Office provided 359 hours of courtroom security. Also conducted 11 traffic checkpoints. We did 116 out-of-state extraditions involving 262 hours. 11,422 miles were traveled for out-of-state extraditions. The Sheriff's Office provided 15 in-state transports. Also, we processed 262 concealed weapons permit, 49 fingerprint applications, and also the deputies unlocked 45 vehicles. And that's all I have. Do you have any questions on?
Any comments or questions for the sheriff? Been busy, looks like.
It's been busy. But that's what we do.
What you do.
We appreciate all that you do, Sheriff Eads.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Yes, ma'am. How you doing?
I'm doing good.
All right.
Peggy Tosh from Snowflake Road. I'm gonna crowd today. I
You
feel
do?
like y'all are family, but
Well, we are. We all are on.
I'm more nervous today, But I'm representing Snowflake Road, and I've got 2 people with me, but we would have more, but they's, working people, and they can't make it at 8:30 in the morning. And I called, about the only thing I got to report, I called Terry Kilgore's office a couple of times, and I haven't heard back from them. And what I would leave the message was, I would ask them if Terry was working on getting us some funding for the secondary roads. Maybe moving some money from primary roads to the secondary roads. But I haven't heard back from her, or him. And the dirt roads, are either dusty, muddy, rough, and bushes. And I haven't called VDOT this month. But I'll probably start getting a hold of them again on account of where the bushes are growed out. You can't see around them horseshoe curves. And we would love to get some more gravel, so we'll try to get that done until we can get, but the main focus is we'll make sure we get on that 6-year plan.
We do have a public hearing, a joint public hearing with VDOT after we get through all of this, so if you want to stick around for it,
Okay.
with VDOT will be. So you can go and speak again if you need to, so hang around till we get through that if you want.
Okay.
All right.
Thank
you,
you.
ma'am. Anyone else wishing to speak? Good morning.
I'm back. I'm Larry Vickers, and I'm here representing the senior citizens of Nicholsville Park. We had a meeting last night, and they authorized me to come down here and talk about the farmers market. I want to go back, and a number of you folks went here back 10, 12 years ago, maybe 2, and review a little bit about the park history. The park was built by volunteers. Joe Meade had a vision, and that thing was built and completed by volunteers. It's been run for the last 22 years by volunteers with the help of the county, and taxpayer money has funded some of it to help out. But it's been run very well. We had great communications between the county and the board here, particularly since I've been down here and dealing with you folks. Unfortunately, that communication has got strained here in the last few days because of lack of communications. I hope in coming here that we can resolve some of that, because we weren't invited to the meetings of is it the COVID board, or I'm not certain what that board name is. We invited the people to come to meetings for the last 2, and nobody showed up. And that's not acceptable, folks. Not acceptable at all. But be that as it may, the one thing, the goal I have coming here is try to get this thing back under control from a communication point. Back in 2012, the park and the county signed a memorandum of agreement of how the county and the park would operate. I wrote the original draft, and Sally took it and corrected my mistakes and added the legalese to it. But anyway, just in quick summary, that draft says that the seniors will run the park as volunteers until such time that we don't have enough people to run the park. It also says that the county will fund any major repairs, and that they will provide 2 employees, 1 to clean the building and 1 to work the outside and do the maintenance. And the seniors agreed that they would do routine maintenance as they could, and we had to depend on Bill to do some items for us because we either don't have the tools or the skills to do that. That's evolved over time, and the county originally paid the electricity bill because Nicholsville was giving us water. Then Nicholsville quit giving us water, and the county picked that up, and the PSA, and it goes on and on. But there's been some things involved that changed a little bit just because of circumstances. back in 2000, they probably had 25 volunteers, and the people actually cleaned the building free. We didn't hire anybody to do that, but as it evolved and we lost people, things had to change a little bit. But be that as it may, that agreement is signed and should be on file here, and how we operate, I won't go into the details of that. I do want to go into the details about the senior citizens voted last night and a month ago about where they wanted to relocate the farmer's market. And that information was passed on to Jeff Kegley. Can somebody give me the name of that board?
ARPA.
What is it?
ARPA.
ARPA board?
ARPA.
ARPA board, okay. That information was passed on through Jeff Kegley, that for the seniors that voted to have that building put. Again, last night, we reconfirmed that, and it was unanimous both a month ago and last evening. I'll tell you how we got to the conclusion of this. There was three initial sites to start, well, there's two initial sites to start with. Look out at the concession stand between the flagpole and the concession stand, and then down below the road. That evolved then.
Larry, Bill, can you bring that up on Google Earth? And,
Yeah, I asked him to do that. Thank you, Bill.
everybody can see exactly where you're talking. I know, but some may not.
You're right. I asked Bill to do it, and I forgot to tell him to do it.
All right.
That's the stress of Danny, looking at Danny in the face all the time. Okay. You don't have it yet. Okay, there we go, see it better. If you look out, I'm a little confused myself right where we're at here. Okay, if you look out the baseball field, you'll see the concession stand there. Bill, can you put the arrow on that?
Concession stand.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah.
The original site was there between the flagpole where the circle is and the building. And that, it was a problem because it'd be a water problem and an appearance problem together. It wasn't suitable. Now, if you go back out front, we go to the first one, and that is just down from the parking lot there in that area. And at first, everybody was, you hear farmer's market, people get excited because you think, wow, we're gonna be able to sell farmer stuff, farmers will do that. And everybody, you know, you get the old sheep herd mentality. One goes through the gate, you all go through the gate. And I thought it was, at first glance, it was okay too. I wasn't totally excited about it, I was okay with it. But then that evolved and we got to looking at the cost. And the cost to do the filling there, I've heard anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000, and I think about the best estimate I had, 15,000.
10 to 15.
Yeah, so it's gonna cost that to do the dirt fill, because you gotta pack the dirt, and you just can't go in there and dump regular old dirt in there, a lot to do. With that, another site we looked at, and Bill, if you'll come out to the playground, thought about building it right there. Well, a lot of people said kids use that, and when you start looking, that is probably one of the most active places we have in the park for kids. Plus, it's got a sewer line and a water line there. So, and it's got an elevation problem. You can't dig down because of the sewer line, and you'd have a problem with handicapped people trying to get up to the facility. And you've got 1 inch of rise, you got a foot of run, you got to have for handicap. So that left us with basically 2 of them discounted, and a third one. We were out there looking at the below the road again, and I went out to the concession stand and happened to think Greg Corder owned the field there next to the concession stand. And so I called Greg and asked him if he'd be able to donate that to the county if he'd like to do that. He said he would absolutely love to help the county any way he could to help out. All he wanted was a sign put up that the land would be donated in memory of his mother and daddy. That's pretty cheap land. That's all he wanted. Jeff Kegley and I went out there and took a transit and shot that. There's about an 18-inch roll-off for about 20 feet across about 40 feet. So site preparation is minimal. It's hardly nothing. It butts right up to that parking lot area there, and it will fit in there in terms of adapting into the park. It will fit really good. So that we're down to 2. And I can tell you that the park board voted for the one at the concession stand. Now, here's the reasons why. Okay?
Who is the park board?
The senior citizens.
Okay, all
The
right.
senior citizens basically run the operation.
Okay, I'm with you.
And that's where the money comes in,
Yeah.
it's accounted for, keep up with all of those stuff, and day-to-day activities. But here's the logic behind this. I believe, if I understand, that one of the pluses of putting it down the road was road visibility. Well, if you come from Gate City, there's no visibility of that at all, because you'll be looking toward Nicholsville and you'll be coming on the bridge. If you come up from Nicholsville, there's 5 access areas to the road there, and it's in a curve, a slight curve. And people are not going to be looking left normally, because you got 2 coming from the school, 1 from a road, 1 from the park, and the Pizza Plus. So you're not going to be looking left normally. I've had people try to tell them where the park was at, and they'd been to Nicholsville, and they didn't even realize that park was there, and it's more than one. And I tell them about the bridge, and then they understand the school, but they have no idea that park sits back in there, because you have to look for it. It's not something you're going to see a half a mile or a quarter mile away, and that's going to be a landmark for the rest of your life. But anyway, be that as it may, visibility it's marginal. We'll give you that. You could put a sign out there and do the same thing. Probably better, because the sign would be all the way at the road. Down at the road, on over building, across at the memorial. At the bridge right there, you could put a sign right there. If we think that's going to attract people, I would argue that David Mann has a farm over at Fort Blackmore. It's probably one of the most remote areas of this county in terms of looking for traffic to get by, to have business. But he sells a good product, and he sells it at the right price point. And you can always depend on it, and people will come from all over to go get it. If we've got that up there, I argue it will make little or no difference if that building is out toward the road or 500 feet farther out in the back out there. Okay, let me get to some other issues there. There's going to be a parking issue there if we rent that building. And that building, the big crowds are usually Friday or Saturday, and we rented the building 99 times last year. Out of that, probably 35 or 40%, we had pretty much a packed house, which means that parking lot will be full, overflowing on the road and into that little parking place out there at the memorial. Last Saturday, the park was completely full with the person who rented the building, plus all the baseball stuff that's going on out there. So parking will be an issue. There's no restrooms, except in the building. And we can't have people coming in after people rent the building to use the restroom. Electrical service is not readily available. We'd have to get a drop from electric power. Water service would be difficult to get to because the water line is on the other side of the road. That's the downside as I see it at that area out there. Let's go to the concession stand. We got a free site, we got limited grade work, and certainly won't have to spend $15,000 that we could take and put on a building and make it other things and upgrade it. There's water easily accessible within 15 or 20 feet of where the building's gonna be. There's electric drop already out there within about 200 feet. There's restrooms within an arm's throw there of where the building's going. It wouldn't be more than 50 feet away. There's a concession stand there that could be used for schools or whatever if the farmer's market's successful to come out and sell some of their wares if they wanted to do some fundraising. There's ample parking. If you look out there, you can see there's probably 35 or 40 parking places out there. I haven't counted them, but there are at least that many. There won't be a conflict with baseball season by the time the farmer's market comes in. Baseball season will be over. So there's not a conflict there right now. What some other uses we could use it for? Nicholsville Days could certainly use it for entertainment. It could be used for weddings, receptions, and you'd have restrooms and a concession stand where you could prepare food. It could be used as a picnic area, but it's not used for a farmer's market. It could be used for a shelter at ball games if it had rain. It could be used for games or meetings or other entertainment. I submit to you that the senior citizens have an agreement that says we have the right to operate as we see fit. And we think that putting it out at the concession stand is the right place to put it. So we would like a decision of what we want to do.
We'll discuss after we close this expression, sir.
Okay, that's fine.
All right, thanks. Thanks for coming. Good presentation.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Good morning.
Good morning. Gary Baker from Boozy Creek and Federal Road, Highway 58. Bring it back to the road situation. I just wanted to see if there was any feedback on what you all have done since we came last month. I understand maybe y'all have a VDOT presentation today, but our roads are getting so bad, ditches filled up, tiles filled up, trees along the road that even if they do try to bush hog, can't do a thing for the trees. Especially Highway 58, about a mile from Washington County line, and all of Boozy Creek's in bad shape. And I was just wondering if there's any feedback from last month when we were here, if y'all contacted the governor, wrote the governor, or whatever, Secretary of Transportation, or. And I know Peter mentioned EPA. Well, I know Sullivan County cleaned out their ditches here about 2 months ago, and hauled, I know one guy got 33 ton loads of dirt out of the ditches, and evidently the EPA in Tennessee don't do like Virginia or something. I don't know what's going on there. But anyway, I think we ought to try to maybe get Ms. Kegley to write some letters to transportation, VDOT transportation. I don't understand why VDOT in Virginia contracts their stuff out and Tennessee don't. I don't understand that. Why did we, down the road, we used to have everything taken care of in Scott County and all throughout Virginia because VDOT was of their own nature. I mean, they done what they wanted, and with them old McMurray boys, Rich McMurray and Garvey and them, they kept everything cleaned out up our way. But anyway, that's why I was here today, see if y'all had any feedback on this.
Appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Anyone? If not, we'll come out of this suppression period, we'll discuss. Thank you, Sheriff Eads, for coming and good presentation. Ms. Peggy, we'll see what happens here in a little bit with the public hearing. The deal at Nicholsville, anybody want to address that? What Mr. Vickers had to say about it? Anyone?
Well, I'm on the ARPA committee, and, you know, we come about this, I don't know, a year and a half ago, John, is that when we applied for the grant? You know, and we was able to receive a grant for $25,000. We was gonna match the grant for 25 more thousand, so that'd be $50,000, you know, for sure toward that. Us as an ARPA committee, we just felt like that, you know, the place on the other side of the road across from the senior building was the best place.
Yes.
That was our number one choice. Of course, it is ultimately going to be up to the board, you know, in the end. You know, we did go through.
Daddy, can I come up, please?
I'd rather you didn't. I mean, once we're through, you know, I'll give you a chance when he gets through. I'll give you a chance.
I just can't hardly hear him back here.
He's. I mean.
Oh, yeah. If you can't hear,
if it's
fine.
all right, he's.
Oh, yeah. Come on. I'm sorry. I thought.
Yeah, I mean,
you know,
No, I didn't mean to speak. I just wanted to.
Okay, that's fine.
I can't hear what he's saying.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
If I keep my mouth shut. I
No,
can
you're
say-
fine.
No, you're.
You're all right. But go ahead, Jeremy.
You know, we as the ARPA committee just felt like that across the road from the senior building was the best place. That was our number one place. You know, that we had decided. Of course, we had talked to Jeff Kegley. You know, we went through him, and that's what we thought was the line of communication. And we're sorry if we didn't know. We didn't realize that we need to go through the seniors and there's two separate boards, is that right?
That's correct.
You know, you have your senior board and then you have the other board that Jeff Kegley is, and what's that board called that Jeff?
Recreation Association.
Okay, all right, okay. You know, and that, I guess we messed up there, and I apologize if you all felt like you was left out. You all do a great job at the park. There's nothing to go against what you all do. You know, we just, I guess some of the stuff we took for granted. You know, I'm new to the board. You know, we didn't realize what the contract that you had. You know, we just took it as the park is county owned, and we just took it as, you know, we could. Of course, we wanted to include you all, and we did. And me and Jeff and John Kilgore did come to your meeting. I don't think you was there though. I think you may have had some health concerns.
Can I talk to you?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I wasn't there because my wife had COVID.
Right.
But there was 2 other meetings after that, and we, convened, and I talked to you about coming to the meeting last night. We talked yesterday, and.
Yeah, we did, and we had a long conversation yesterday.
Yeah, and then we had a very broad conversation,
and,
I Mark Jeremy, he stood up for what he did, and I did too, and that's good.
Well,
But we're not looking for an apology. I just want a solution that's the right thing to do for the park. We like the idea of the farmer's market. And if you go through all the reasons and put them down, the pluses and minuses, you can't come up with any other decision, then the best place for that is out at the concession stand. I mean, but if you only look at one thing, it's the road. It's the road.
But anyway, there was other locations too. The grant is not necessarily limited to the park. It's a grant for Nicholsville. Hang on. We could have, there's other site locations too that we had talked about. There's a site that the town of Nicholsville owns that is beside the fire department. That would be zero probably prep, and it is right on the road, and they're willing for that, but there's limitations on how the grants wrote. You understand on how, where that is town owned. The grant was for the county. There'll be some stipulations there. Another site that was mentioned is a site that the school owns. There used to be a house there, but there would be a lot of grade work again, and be limited on how to get to it. Somebody did mention too, there's a little bit of space, beside of the Scott County Telephone Company. We were looking at it on this exact picture, and we forgot that the cell phone tower's there. So there's not really all that much room left since the cell phone tower's there. But we talked about a lot of sites. We just felt that the park would be the best place.
We're more than willing to cooperate. We have no problem with that. But if you don't want to put it there, we're fine. If
Right.
you want to take it somewhere else.
Well, here.
I mean, we talked about alternatives, what we would do based on what the decision is here last night, and we have, and that was one of the alternatives. If you'd rather put it somewhere else, we're happy to help you, but we want to put it to a concession stand.
Yeah.
But if you want to go somewhere else,
Right.
yeah,
Well,
we have no problem with
here's
that.
what's going on in Nicholsville. I actually talked to the mayor yesterday, and they have plans on having a farmer's market with a building or without. And their plans is to put it beside of the fire hall, that lot right there beside. I think they may own that whole thing now. But anyway, what may be the best route is, of course, I don't like giving these grants back. I mean, we applied for this grant, and this will be up to the board. In the future, maybe Nicholsville could apply for a grant and get their own building, if there's no way to switch our grant through the county to theirs.
Let me ask John Kilgore, is that possible to do that, or it's the county got it, could Nicholsville be included in that, has been a recipient of that?
I'm not sure we can do that. We'd have to go back to the Virginia Department of Ag and ask that question. It is actually to the Scott County EDA, the grant. We have to make sure that that's possible. I don't have an answer to that.
Look, I mean, if the verbiage could be changed for, either or, county or the town, so. And that might be the best thing to do, looks like. I don't, the folks, the senior citizens there have done a lot at that park. It would be very expensive to the county if we took over and done what they're doing. I get that. And their input in this is, of course, is to me is very important too, but I mean, getting it resolved. I don't want to lose that grant. It's what, $25,000?
25.
Yeah, that was for that, and plus the money that was presented from the ARPA committee to that project also.
$50,000.
50,000 total. So anyway, maybe not even putting it in the park period might be the answer. That way, that would end it. And if Nicholsville thing be included in that grant, or as a recipient of that grant, that might be the way to go. If we could change the verbiage in it to include them, rather than just specifically to the
We have no
EDA.
issue with that.
Okay.
No, none whatsoever.
How much land is Mr. Carter going to give for this?
Enough to put the building on, which is, I want to throw out a rough number, 60 by 50, something like that. The building is
30 by 50 is what we
and it would have about a 10-foot
Yeah, on a skirt.
skirt around it or a little more.
That land is so close to the concession stand anyway, with parking and free land.
Yeah.
And as far as a sign out front or people seeing it going by, that would be a destination. It wouldn't be a place that people driving by would necessarily see. I would drive up to Gate City to the farmer's market. So with that, it looks like Quarters place. How do you two feel about Quarters?
I mean, I'm tickled to death that Greg is willing to do that. I mean, that's been, you know, something that I guess it's went on for a while, and that's good. The only thing that I always have limitations on is taking things off the tax books. You know, I know that's not much. It wouldn't be much, but of course you'd have to build a fence. You know, that's going to be $4 to $5 a foot. You know, however long that is, I'm sure there'll be deed searches, there'll be transfers of deed. I don't know all the ins and outs of that, but there'll be some cost there too. But I mean, it's up to you all. I mean, you know, I don't. I pretty much said from the get-go, we can put it wherever. I mean, I don't really care. But you know, we just felt like the best place was across the road, simply because it was close to the road. That's that. I mean, that's what I told Mr. Vickers yesterday. I mean, that, you know, I've always heard location.
Yeah.
You know, and but I guess that's what I had on my mind.
What is the use by date on that grant? When does it have to be used by?
Next year in May,
June 30th.
June 30th of next year.
24, okay. That MOU you talked about, I'd like to look at that. Ms. Caitlin said it does exist. I want
I'm
to see
sorry, I
that.
didn't understand you.
The MOU, the memorandum,
Sally's got a copy of it,
Yeah.
I've only got a draft.
okay. And I hate to put something off, but let's look at this maybe in June. I want to look at that and see, you know, about how much input the senior citizens have on deciding that. So anyway, that's important that we look at it and see what is in that document. Is that all right with everybody? We'll discuss among ourselves. And
I mean,
decide in June.
that's fine, but if you do find that we can put it basically where we want to put it, then that's going to cause controversy, and I don't think that's a good thing either.
Yeah, I don't
You
either.
know,
I
just
don't like.
to build walls up. I don't think that's good either.
Yeah.
So
I wish they were on board with it. We could come together without even having to, you know, let them make a decision without any controversy on it from us. So, is that all right with you?
Me too.
All right.
That's fine.
Okay. But Jeremy, I mean, he's been on top of it. We've talked about it, so maybe you felt like, you know, there wasn't happening between the board of supervisors and the senior citizens. He has been involved in this to the max.
Well, I agree with
It
you.
is.
It is a little confusion because the senior citizens basically run the operation. They rent the building, they collect the money.
They do.
They make
Have
sure
done well
it's
with it.
clean. And the NARA looks at the bigger projects and kind of the governance of the park.
Yeah.
So they're not in the day-to-day operations like the seniors are. And I don't know how it got set up that way. If I had a do-over, I wouldn't
Yeah.
do it that way, but that's what we had heard, and we're kind of dealing with that from an operational
All
standpoint.
right. Is everybody okay with that? We'll kick the can down the road one more month. Is that all right, Jeremy?
yeah, I mean, that's fine. Like I said,
I will do it. All right, thank you.
I need to be back here in June or what?
If you want, welcome to come. For us need to, I don't
Call me if you
know.
need me. If you don't,
All right.
I'm coming.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay.
Anything else we need to speak on? All right. Next item is item number 7, public hearing on a special use permit application submitted by Edward Amos Robbins III for tax map number 78-A-94 on Powell Mountain Road. To use the parcel as retail sales. So with that, Mr. Gilman.
Good morning, Board.
Good morning.
Mr. Robbins came in to see me back and wanted to, his initials was he wanted to sell guns out of the old Will Smith store. Since this time, he's changed and he just wants to
Hey,
go
David,
for retail
David,
sales.
just a second. I meant to say something. She reminded me, that letter that was mentioned about Senator VDOT, it was sent. So I went to mention that. Sorry about that. That's my fault. So that way that Gary Baker will know that we did send, it was sent.
So he didn't hear you.
He didn't
That
hear.
letter was sent, that you mentioned,
Yes.
it was sent.
Okay,
All
thank
right.
you, sir.
Sorry about that, I meant to mention, anyway, go ahead. Didn't mean to interrupt you, you're on a roll.
That's
I
all
interrupted
right.
you, so.
Anyway, Mr. Roberts came in, he has since said the guy changed his mind, he don't want gun sales, but he wanted to go ahead and continue to our retail sales in the old Will Smith store. It's in your package there, it's located off of, at the intersection there of Dry Creek, Purchase Ridge, Clinch, the river, the road going up the mountain. I get all these roads named Powell Mountain Road and Pattinsville Road. It's right on the intersection there. It's been there for as long as I can remember. You got it in your package. He's wanting to go retail sales, and it's an agricultural residential district. The agricultural residential retail sales has to go through a special use permit. Get caught up here. There it is, the location. There's a aerial of it. And it does take a special use permit. So he applied, we went through the process, it's been presented to the planning commission. They recommended that it be approved. The last page of your package has all the people that have been notified by a certified letter that he's applying for that. I haven't heard any negative. Any questions?
Anybody have any comments or questions? Mr. Gilman, anyone?
Thanks.
All right, with that, we'll open a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak? No one? All right. With that, we'll entertain a motion to approve the special use permit. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion,
All
Mr.
right.
Chairman.
Ms. Hood made a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Bricky, second. Any discussion? All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Next item is a public hearing on the possible adoption of an ordinance to amend and reenact the real estate tax exemption ordinance for elderly and disabled persons to reflect changes in Section 5. The amounts of total combined income and total combined financial worth, and in Section 10, the amount of the exemption. So with that, we do have this public hearing. Is anyone wishing to speak during this public hearing on this? The numbers in there's quite a few numbers there. It's going to do. It's going to help the elderly and disabled. There's income requirements and so on. But with that, anyone? If not, we'll close the public hearing. We need a motion to approve.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Tippin made the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Addington second. Any discussion? I want to call you Mr. Krug. I'm about to get used to that.
Hello, it's
All right.
okay.
All right. Then have a motion second. Any discussion? All in favor, vote by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, so motion carried. That'll help the folks in the county that need it the most. I appreciate that. Next item is a joint public hearing with the Virginia Department of Transportation and the Scott County Board of Supervisors on the proposed secondary six-year plan for fiscal year 2023-24 through 2028-2029 in Scott County, and on the secondary system construction budget for fiscal year 2023 and 2024. So the VDOT folks want to come, we will get into this. Good morning.
Good morning.
You heard a lot there about things, so you're more educated than what you were.
And I'm Joey Mullins. I'm the assistant resident engineer for the Wise Residency. We have, of course, this time of year, every year, we do the secondary six-year plan update. Before the board, there are copies of that. We also, I think we have a few extra copies available if anybody just wants to look at those. So the plans from last year are basically unchanged. Those same projects that were on there are still on there. We added an additional 2 projects to the plan. for for this secondary 6-year plan update. And those two projects are a 1.5 mile segment of Snowflake Road, Route 671. That it is, and so it would be added onto the plan. It would be fully funded in FY29, which would mean it would be in the construction season of fall 2028 to summer 2029. We also have recommended a 1 mile segment of Mineral Hill Lane, Route 669. And both of those projects are starting at the, I guess on Snowflake Road, it'll be starting where the pavement ends, coming from 71, going up Snowflake Road. Then the Mineral Hill Lane project begins at 71 and extends approximately 1 mile northward for that project. That project shows in the plan to be about $91,000 short, but almost every year we usually have funds that are swept from completed projects, so we would expect that project to also advance that year and be able to go to construction in that fall to 28 to summer 29 period. I think there are still some, there are still future phases of those two routes, and as well as any other routes that the board wants to consider for future plans. But with the funding available, and that was basically each year, the county gets roughly $1 million in unpaved road funding that goes towards those projects. With that, we can add generally somewhere between 2.5 to 3 miles of projects, just depending on how much work is involved with those particular routes. But that's what's presented before the board. I'll be glad to ask or answer any questions or address any concerns you may have.
Anybody have any questions before we open the public hearing? Anyone have any questions for?
Mineral Hill, I'm just curious. That will 1 mile will take it down across Copper Creek, won't it?
I think is it Big Moccasin Creek or is it Copper Creek?
I think it's Copper Creek.
Big Moccasin.
Big Moccasin.
Yeah.
It will take it.
It will take it across that.
That's the worst part on that road, so that 1 mile will really help Mineral Hill.
Yeah, and that, I'll also, just for your information, we have been working with the bridge about a bridge replacement project for that bridge as well. So.
Great.
The Snowflake Road, that's half of it, 1.5 miles.
That's correct.
You said the future to get the other 1.5, would that follow the year after that, or how does that work?
I think there was about 1 mile still remaining.
Still left.
And that would be a route that the board could consider adding for the next plan update. Yes.
Well, how far would 1.5 miles get? Do you have any idea? There is Copper Creek. Does it get?
I believe it takes it north of the intersecting road at
Okay.
67.
That goes toward
670.
Midway? Yeah. All right. Is there any way to split it up? If see, there's no houses coming down from where the pavement ends, all the way down to Copper Creek, and then that's the last house at Copper Creek, and then there's no houses until you get to Addington Frame. Would there be any way to maybe pave it to the bridge at Copper Creek and then go to the other end and pave that end from Addington Frame to include all the houses and get them off of that dirt road?
Generally, if we do a project, we would do one end or the other. We wouldn't like split it.
I know that'd be a lot of
across.
movement.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand that.
Yeah, and trying to, there's a lot of needs. We're trying to address all the different requests. So that was our recommendation, was we would advance forward to phase 1 on both of those routes. Then for the next year, we could do phase 2 project, which another project that would be enough to complete the unpaved section on Snowflake
Okay.
right there too.
I mean, if we could get it on there, that whole road needs to be paved. I mean, if we could do half of it one year, half of it the next, and have that in writing, that's.
Yeah, and that's what's presented right now. This
Okay.
is the phase 1, which gets 1.5 miles. That leaves another mile for the road
Right.
to consider for a future year.
Okay, because on the other end is the part where, there's a lady, there's only like maybe 2 or 3, 4 houses, I can't remember, on the other end of it. But there's one driveway there they can't even use. And you know, I know it, but still it's gonna be 5, 6 years down the road, so, anyway, but,
Yeah, if there's anything in the meantime, that's something we can work.
it's been looked at as far as I know, but as far as I know, nothing's ever been done. But it's on the other end, I don't remember, it's on the Addington frame end. It's a Bledsoe that lives there. But that's a start, that's good, yeah. But we just there still needs to be more funding, you know, and it needs to be constant. You know, the 6-year plan would work if the funding was there, that's the problem. You know, I mean, there's not, when the funding's cut out, then we can't do anything. That's the problem. That has to change in Richmond. Anyway.
Any other questions or concerns?
Just a real quick question, Joey. I don't know if this is on your table or not.
Sure.
I've asked this several times. This is regarding Bluebell Drive on
Yeah.
East Carter's Valley.
I had provided an email, I believe, to Ms. Starnes around February that had kind of outlined what was required for that road to be added.
I'll get that too.
Okay. And that basically it kind of outlines to do it as a rural addition, what would be required. And basically, part of that just hinges on whether or not there's enough right-of-way initially to show if it's available or would be able to meet that criteria. But then it also details, I went through and did kind of a rough, I guess, scope of the work that would be required to bring it up to standard to be brought to the system.
And can you give us an idea of what that is?
I don't have that right before me today, but I did put that in fairly detail in that email, so.
Okay.
I can forward that to you.
Get forward to all of them.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, that's, quite frankly, there's a lot of roads that are paved that are much narrower than that. It's good passing. I'm sure you've been on the road, it sounds like.
Yeah, I think it's a great project. I think it's just needing to be able to go through the process to be able to get it added, so.
I appreciate that.
Okay.
Joy, let me ask you one question. I talked to you this past winter about the intersection down here at the red line. And that's one of the most dangerous places around here. I've seen people go out and turn from the inside lane to the outside lane going toward Kingsport. They come from Big Stone and come in the lane that goes out, every combination. And you said that possibly this spring or summer you could put lines.
You're talking about
In that
the
intersection.
dual turn lanes.
Yes.
You come, yeah. We commonly refer to those as puppy prints. They're basically tracks to keep people in
That's what
alignment.
we need.
Yeah, and we have reached out to Bristol District traffic operations about trying to get those marked. I've even mentioned it would be great if we could look at some sort of a inset marking or something that maybe wouldn't wear as quickly
Yeah.
for some of those, because that's the problem with them. They'll mark them, if it's paint, it'll last for a year or two, and then they get worn off. So we would need to try to do either thermoplastic or maybe some sort of inlay marker.
That'd be great. That's a very dangerous place. The other thing I want to mention, the last time you were here, you didn't come up to speak, and the gentleman that's new didn't know about the bridge on Big Branch going up Clinch River. We were told about 3 years ago and saw maps of a bridge that was going to be placed there. Do you have any information on that?
It's not ringing a bell with me right off. I can research it.
That's 65 up through there. Isn't
It is.
Yeah.
Oh.
It was metal, the metal
Right.
Great Bridge, they've
I
got
got
paved
you.
over
Okay,
that.
that one.
They were
Yes.
talking about even detouring the road up around Big Branch and back down to 65 at that time.
Yes.
But-
That's the route, yeah, the Route 65 bridge replacement project. I will, I can get you some, or you want to know about schedule or?
I was just curious about when it'll happen. There's
Okay.
buses up through there all the time, and if that bridge is unsafe, something needs to be done there.
I will, whenever I get back to the office, I'll look up that project and I can get you details on when the schedule will be.
Okay.
Troy, Mr. Baker asked about cleaning ditch lines and stuff. Do y'all have any plans to clean ditches?
Yes, the
No,
maintenance,
usually they clean
and
every
that's,
year.
yeah, that's part of our ongoing maintenance operations. We do have metrics and things like that that they have to meet. That's going to be more in Wade Belcher. He's our assistant residency administrator who's over our maintenance operations. But I do know that they work really hard about trying to plan different work. We're trying to get all the different needs addressed. And I know ditching and cutting back brush and things are definitely two of those high priority items for Scott County.
And Wade has assured me that will happen.
Yeah.
On a different note, I got a call from M.A. Lunsford. Bill, I don't know if you can bring up this place. It'll be down below where Dr. Red Wine's business is at. It'll be that road that turns to the left on Wadlow. No, on Wadlow, yeah. I forget the name of the road. It was a little piece in there on one of those roads when you come down from Dr. Red Wine's, go down the hill, go around a curve, first road to the left, right there.
Right here.
That's the first road to the left.
No. The next one. Looks like the next one.
To the subdivision?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, where M.A. Lunsford used to live. On top of the hill. And I know I'm putting you on the spot on this one. And that's okay, we can communicate, afterward. But there was a section that was closed off, and there was actually, I think a piece of rail or something to block, I don't know, 100 feet or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you go around through there.
It's just before the bridge where he's talking about.
No, you're going correctly.
Further on down on Wadlow Gate. That's what you're talking about.
Where M.A. Lunsford lives?
Just before the bridge,
Yeah, there's a subdivision to the left before you cross the bridge.
right here.
No, that's a river road.
Okay, so back. Right here.
No.
Right there.
What's the name of that road?
Black Horse Road.
I think it's Block House.
Blockhouse.
I believe, I remember seeing that.
You're close to it.
Black Horse,
Close.
Blockhouse.
Trying to read in Google Street View, that's pretty close.
Yeah.
What was his meeting, Marshall?
So when you go up that hill, and I need to go down there and look at it, too, to see what he's specifically talking about. The VDOT had closed off a little road, I'm not sure, and then put a berm up there. And he's wanting it opened up, you know, he's in assisted living home in Alabama, but he'd like for that to be opened up to where there could be parking.
Oh, right there, right left to the hand. I see a guardrail or something across, looks like an old road.
Probably. Yeah, right there.
So, okay, so it was probably used to cross the old
Yeah.
road route.
Yeah, he was saying that
probably
he
blocked
wants
that off to.
Yeah, he wanted that opened up. That's a
Okay.
possibility.
Okay. We can look.
And I
into that.
can provide, you know, his number and things like that.
Okay. I would imagine the intent was to try to prevent somebody from driving through inadvertently and going off the edge of the road there.
Joe, I have a quick question for you. How hard is the red light at Food City and one at 5823 interchange there, to get those in some kind of sequence? Is that, how hard is it to do that?
I think they've actually looked at sequencing that as part of these project pipeline efforts and stuff.
To keep the
And
traffic
pretty-
flowing.
Yeah, we just had those synced like late last year because traffic was backing up plumb to the funeral home in the evenings. So they've worked on the syncing where traffic's flowing now the afternoon. It really helped
Good,
that.
okay, good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was an issue. You really, as close as those are spaced together, it's good to have them synced up so that you get a platoon of vehicles going through at once.
Right,
So,
okay, good.
But yeah, I think they had worked on those
All right, good.
based on that feedback.
All right, any other comments or questions?
Just
Mr.
real
Mullins?
quick, a thank you and pass on to Wade.
Okay.
Had run across a situation where, for some reason, the speed limit signs have been taken down on Filter Plant Road.
Okay.
And so he's since, just within a matter of 3 or 4 days, got that taken care of. So, a thank you back to him.
I got those put back up. Okay.
Positive you can do that.
Before we open the public hearing, anyone else have any questions or comments for Mr. Mullins?
One quick thing. Myself and Mr. Belcher and Mr. Heartless went around the other day. They were needing a right of entry or something like that for a Mr. Vickers on Highway 71. The new supervisor at Fort Blackmore emailed me and needed to know where he lived or what his name was or anything, but they said something about getting the paper to me and taking it to him and letting him sign it and then me getting it back to you all because he don't get home till like 6 o'clock. They just need that paper for him to sign, and I'm willing to take it to him, or you all can leave it in his mailbox or whatever.
Yeah, I was gonna say, as far as that goes, we can mail it to him.
Okay.
If that needs to be, if we got an address, we can mail it to
Okay,
him.
I didn't know his address, I could get it, but, just whichever, that needs to, if I can help in any way.
Okay, yeah, if I would suggest just getting that, if you've got his address and can provide that to Wade, we can send it
Okay, I'll
directly to.
I'll get it on the way home.
Okay.
That way you'll have that.
All right.
That was sort of on track.
Anyone else before we open the public hearing? All right. Good update. Appreciate what you're doing and thank you for coming. All right.
I'll sit back down.
All right.
I'll wait around till we all need anything else.
Anybody wishing to speak during the public hearing? Anyone? We'll close the public hearing and we will entertain a motion and a second to approve this 6-year plan. Some roads added. Ms. Peggy, it'll be a little while, but Snowflake will be added, so.
I hope I'll be able to see it.
I'll be too. So it's down the road a little way, but at least it's gonna get funded and it's gonna happen, but it just, you know.
Well, one other thing, don't never give back grant money, put it on secondary roads.
If we could, we would. I promise you. All right, we need a motion to approve the 6-year plan as presented.
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Bricky made a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Mr. Herron, second. Any discussion? All in favor, vote by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, everybody. Good information. Next item is item 10, Ms. Lana Mullins from the Department of Social Services. Give us an update, if you would, please. How are you today?
Good.
You know how VDOT works now? You got it figured out?
I do.
All right. All right.
I
live right close to that last project they told me.
Okay, good.
So, good morning.
morning.
As Chairman Mann said, my name is Lana Mullins. I'm the Director of Scott County Department of Social Services. And I'm just here to give you an update on fiscal year 2022 as it's closing out. We're starting a new one. A little bit about what our agency does for the community. We have two divisions within the Department of Social Services. We have our public assistance side, and then we have our services side. So as far as public assistance benefit programs, we have the SNAP program, which many refer to as our food stamps. It's the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. We have TANF and VIEW. TANF is Temporary Assistance to Needy Families. We have medical assistance, which consists of long-term care, ABD, which is aged, blind, and disabled, and then our Medicaid program. We also have energy assistance, which provides heating and cooling assistance, and then we have a fraud management program. So just to go over a few statistics with you, based on the Virginia Department of Social Services Office of Research and Planning, we have 20% of our county's population living in poverty, and 24% of our children living in poverty. This is compared to a statewide poverty rate of 10%. So ours is much higher than the overall state rate. If you look at that over the last 10 years, our poverty rates were the highest in 2014 with 20.8%, and the lowest being in 2019, which went down to 14.8%. If you look at the state poverty rates over that same time period, they have only fluctuated 2%. So it's interesting to me that our lowest poverty rate was right before we went into the COVID public health emergency. And since that time, it has steadily increased and is almost back up to our highest rate, which dates back to 2014. During FY22, Scott County had 8,451 residents who received some form of public assistance, that being SNAP, TANF, or Medicaid, or it could have been a combination of the three. This number has increased by roughly 1,400 over the past 5 years and increased by 562 just in the last year alone. The largest increase is in the medical assistance category, and that can be contributed to Medicaid expansion, which occurred in 2019, and also the public health emergency. 7,935 residents receive medical assistance. Many of these are combined with TANF and SNAP as well. The number of people under age 65 who are uninsured in the locality is 1,325, which is only 8% of our population does not have insurance. The number of insured is 91.4%. And of course, this is looking at a population under age 65, under Medicare age. Looking over the last 10 years, in 2012, 23% of our population was uninsured. So that has dramatically changed over the last few years. Our TANF program is funded through a federal block grant from state funds authorized by the General Assembly, and TANF is based on the Title 4A Act of Social Security. Our TANF is temporary assistance to needy families, which is actually a check that is issued to needy families, and it also has a work or education requirement with it, unless there's an exemption with the family. We have 292 households receiving TANF, and that has dropped from 393 over the last couple of years. Our food stamp program, to give you a little bit of food stamp trivia, food stamps actually began with 4 localities in far southwest Virginia, and that was Lee County, Wise County, City of Norton, and Dickinson County. So I didn't know that until I was reading some information yesterday, so I thought that was interesting. And through this program, it spread throughout the Virginia and then through the nation until 1974 when it became nationwide. So our SNAP benefits is 4,673 households. And that number may seem low compared to Medicaid, but that's household number, not individual number. So it's about the same. In addition to these programs, the agency served 1,977 households through our energy assistance, which provided either cooling or heat assistance in the winter. We have a full-time fraud investigator that investigates allegations assistance fraud. In the last year, we received 60 reports of public assistance fraud. And during that year, we were also under a public health emergency, so we were unable to turn off any Medicaid assistance. So our fraud numbers were much lower because honestly, there was not a lot we could do because of the public health emergency, even though there could have been some fraud going on. But despite that, we still had $22,248 that resulted in disqualification of services, which is basically once we identify fraud, an individual can be disqualified from receiving public assistance again. And this
Is that for
year-
life? Once they're disqualified, is that forever?
Yes.
I thought it was.
Yes. And this year, we're up to 33,000, and the year's not over, so it's, as the public health emergency is ending, we're able to do much more with our fraud program. So I move on to the service side, which is our child welfare and adult protective services. Child protective services, of course, we are responsible for investigating abuse and neglect of children within the county. We had 726 referrals last year of child abuse and neglect. 638 of those referrals met validation for us to investigate. 428 of those were what we call a family assessment, and 210 were investigations. Our investigation track is for more serious cases such as sexual abuse, severe physical abuse, and reports resulting in a child coming into foster care. Physical neglect is the most prevalent category, with 491 of the referrals being for physical neglect, followed by physical abuse at 76, sexual abuse at 29, emotional abuse at 24, medical neglect at 13, and 7 substance exposed infants. And substance abuse is associated with an estimated 80% of all referrals that we receive. Within our Child Protective Service Program, we are monitored by the state and the federal government in several safety outcome areas. So just to go over the performance in those, we have no occurrence of maltreatment, which we have a state standard of 95. Our county met that at 99%. We have no abuse while in foster care, a state standard of 99, and we were at 100%. Our in-home services where we work with families, contacts made monthly at 90%, and we were at 97%. And timeliness of contacts with our child victims, standard of 87%, and we were at 100%. So our Child Protective Service Program works really hard to meet those safety standards. Moving on to foster care. Of course, we have children in foster care that come to us through court commitment and through abuse and neglect, and sadly also through petitions to be relieved of custody, where parents file that with the court when they are no longer able to care for their children. We had 41 children in foster care last year. Each one of those children have an established goal in which we work with the court. That's either return home, adoption, or relative placement, independent living, or permanent foster care. We have 12 months in which we work with those families to achieve those goals, and after those 12 months, we have federal requirements and court requirements that push us to make a different goal if it's not been achieved. Of the 41 children in foster care, the average time in care has been 12 months. The majority of our children are in family-based placements, either in a local foster home or a treatment foster home. And last year, we did have 3 children in congregate or residential care. We're required to visit all of our children at least monthly. We try really hard to keep our children in the community, but we do have children placed across the state, including Central and Northern Virginia. We've had 3 children this past year who've been placed in adoptive homes and their adoptions finalized. Adult Protective Services is our program in which we work with the elderly, much like the Child Protective Service. The only difference is with Adult Protective Services, adults do have the right to make their own decisions. So if they're living in unhealthy situations or situations that are not in their best interest, as long as they are competent, they do have the right to make those decisions. So we cannot intervene if they choose for us not to. And last year we had 199 reports of adult abuse, neglect, or exploitation. Moving on to funding, The Department of Social Services is funded through federal, state, and local dollars. The total social services spending by funding source for Scott County was comprised of 57.6% federal funds, 41.3% state, and 1% local. Now that is across all program areas, so that's all of our assistance and all program areas. The actual administration, there's a higher local match for that. Social services spending by category is 96% benefits and 3.6% administration. In regards to the administration, the locality has a 15.5% match rate. During FY22, the total amount funded to social services by local funds was $790,427. DSS generates revenue back into the locality through staff salaries and client benefit spending, and the total amount of revenue through DSS expenditures back to the locality was $75,066,000. And these figures are compiled by Department of Social Services Office of Research and Planning. Just to tell you just a few challenges that we face that I think the board should be aware of. We are experiencing a historic workforce shortage in our child welfare programs, especially in child protective services and foster care. We have an extremely difficult time retaining staff. Much of that is due to the high workloads, the danger that these folks are exposed to, the low pay, and just the trauma that they are exposed to every day by the work that they do. We've had about a 50% turnover rate in the last year, and we have several vacancies right now. Another issue that we are experiencing is what we refer to as high acuity needs of children in foster care. Across the state, we're experiencing a higher level of need of kids coming into care. Much of this is mental health crisis coming out of the COVID-19 pandemic, increasing substance abuse issues, and behavioral issues. Last year, there were several hundred children that actually spent the night in offices because there was no placement that could be located based on the children's needs. We've actually had that happen here in Scott County. Even in the last 2 months, our staff has spent overnight in the office because we did not have a placement for the children. That's a huge liability issue. Government buildings should not be a place where we house children, but when we have children placed with us and there is no placement, that's a situation we find ourselves in. The final challenge that I'll just mention, something that touches all programs, is continued substance abuse. We have began doing hair follicle testing on all children that enter foster care, and we are finding at an alarming rate kids entering care have been exposed to drugs even as young as 10 months. We are seeing high levels of meth in those children through hair follicle testing. So it's a very challenging time to do this work. Although we face these challenges, though, we strive each day to work together to make our community a safer place to live. And I'd like to thank Ms. Starnes and all her staff for all they do to support us, and the board for your continued support. Any questions?
Could you, I think it was a very thorough report, and a lot of things on your plate there and a lot of concerns. Could you provide a digital report of that?
I can.
Yeah,
Happy to do that.
That's a lot to absorb. I'd like to have a copy of it too. I started keeping some notes, so I couldn't too much.
I did too.
But I would.
I'll be happy. I can send that to Frida. She can send it out.
I'd just like to say, one of the most rewarding things I've done since being on this board is serving on Lana's board of directors, and I'm currently the chairman of that board. And she does a great job, and her staff does a great job. But it is hard to retain people right now.
Yes,
it is. But I keep saying enough about them. They're great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You know, we think our job can get hard sometimes. It would be tough. It would be tough working there. And can you imagine your kids having to sleep in the office because you have no place to put them? And having to send kids out to state, you know, we don't have foster home. 41, I think you said, is in foster care right now. And so anyway, I don't know. It's just, you hear these numbers, and it's almost unbelievable that we have the situations we have. One thing you said, I wanted to ask you, on the TANF stuff, you said there is work and educational requirements for that, for those families, but there is exceptions for, what are some of the exceptions for that?
So the exceptions with that is if you have a child under 12 months and you're the caretaker for that child, if you have a medical disability or you're incapacitated, if you have a family member that you're providing full-time care for, or if you're under the age of 18, that's the only exemption.
And I really believe, I mean, work requirement and education requirements is a must.
Yes.
Because, I mean, you know, they have those signs up in the forest, don't feed the bears, because they get used to it and they don't want to search on their own. I get it, but you folks doing that, I admire what you do. I mean, I can't say enough about it. I don't want to, you know, go on and on here about that, but I'm just, with those numbers, I don't know, it's just really overwhelming to hear what's us having to do it, what y'all having to do.
Yes.
So, thank you so much. All righty. Next item is item 11, Revita update, Ms. Saunders. We'll take a time out. All right, this means time out. So let's take about a 10-minute break. All right.
Thank you. No, I didn't.
Introduce yourself, tell us who you are.
Yes, sir. My name is Courtney Lawson. I'm the program director at Revita Recovery in Duffield, and this is our site medical director. His name is Adrian Backer.
Appreciate it.
We also have with us, and that I'm honored to have with us, is our Virginia Department of Health, Joey Cantrell, Dan Hunsucker, and Jamie Mills. So I wanted to start off by saying Revita Centers is a comprehensive behavioral health care company that incorporates medication-assisted treatment to treat opioid use disorder. So with corporate offices based in Nashville, 8 program locations in East Tennessee and Southwest Virginia. There's actually 3 in Virginia. We have our Whitfield, Abington, and our Duffield office. So our mission at Revita is to promote safe and healthy communities by empowering individuals to reclaim their lives from opioid use disorder. And our vision is we are developing a premier network of outpatient recovery centers that deliver clinical excellence and industry-leading outcomes. So Revita Recovery Centers is the only provider in Southwest Virginia accredited for office-based addiction treatment by CARF. In Tennessee, Revita is only the 5th provider in the entire state to be accredited by CARF as an OBOT. So after a rigorous review against 1,400 standards, Revita Recovery Centers has been awarded a full 3-year accreditation by the Commission on Accreditation of Rehabilitation Facilities. This new status applies to all 8 of our treatment centers in East Tennessee and Southwest Virginia. So there's also a slide in there about insurance payers. We accept almost every insurance. So treating the patient as a whole, Revita Recovery Centers works to heal the whole person rather than simply addressing the disease of opioid use disorder. We do this through a comprehensive commitment to behavioral health care, counseling, and support for both patient inside and outside of our clinics. When a patient comes to our clinic, they are seen by a care coordinator for looking for outside or community resources such as getting them jobs, in-view programs, anything to assist them. They also seek counseling, and then a provider. As a result, we have a company culture that emphasizes clinical excellence, collaboration, regulatory compliance, and community engagement. And so I also put a slide in there of our community engagement. We actually have an affiliation agreement with both Lindsey Wilson College and Mountain Empire Community College recently. So nurses from those colleges can go and do their clinical hours. But I'm going to pass it along to Adrian.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you all for allowing us to come back today. We have many of the same slides from last time with some additional updates that I wanted to share with you all. Talk about the disease of addiction briefly, and we'll also discuss the Opioid Abatement Authority, which is why we're here today. This first slide was something that we talked about last time. It discusses hepatitis C. Hepatitis C is one of the major public health issues facing our community today. Each person infected with hepatitis C spreads that infection to 20 other people within the first 3 years of them being infected. This graph, if you will look at it, the first part of this graph, what it does is it breaks down and shows hepatitis C infections across the state of Virginia. The darker colors, you will notice, are the areas with higher amounts of hepatitis C infections. You will see us here in Southwest Virginia, we're almost the highest category for hepatitis C infections. The next graph down below that, it is the amount of prescriptions for hepatitis C antiviral medications. So once again, the darker numbers are the increase in the amount of prescriptions. The lighter colors are the lower amount of prescriptions. So you will see that our area has the least amount of hepatitis C prescriptions. So we have the highest amount of infections and the lowest amount of prescriptions. That is an issue. That is an issue that our program has worked hard to address. So we've been treating hepatitis C now for over a year. When you factor in the fact that each person spreads that infection to over 20 other people, it's tens of thousands of infections that we've prevented thus far. A big part of what's helped us to accomplish this is a partnership that we have with the Winnebago Health District, the people that I have here with us today. They have a hepatitis C and HIV prevention program. It utilizes harm reduction measures as well as many other ancillary support services. And it has been an excellent addition to our program. They're at our office every week now. They provide food boxes to patients. They can provide family planning services, immunizations. They link them with the local health departments to get them appointments to address some underlying medical issues if needed. Harm reduction supplies. They even have a certified peer recovery specialist that comes with them each day. So it's been an amazing asset to our company and our community. It's been really helpful. The next slide, it talks a little bit about additional programs we have at Revita. A challenge that you face in addiction treatment is sometimes being able to individualize the treatment for what that patient specifically needs. Many patients, they don't want to have to take a sublingual product every day to treat their addiction. They would rather utilize a long-acting injection. So we have extended release buprenorphine injections. This is primarily for patients who are stable in their recovery, doing well, tired of taking something every day. And it's been an amazing asset. We are one of the very few companies or office-based addiction treatment programs in our area that provides this treatment to their patient. There was many challenges associated with doing that, but we successfully have hurdled all of those challenges because of our dedication to our patients in the community and the positive impacts that it makes. There's been numerous patients who I felt like would have been lost to engagement in treatment, which we know drastically increases the risk of an overdose, if not for the availability of these services. There is also extended release naltrexone that has a lot of evidence for alcohol use disorder, some for opioid use disorder. Recent studies have showed it can be helpful for methamphetamine use disorder. We're providing that as well on site. This next graph, it shows how the evolution of overdose deaths have changed over the past few years. So if you'll look, you will notice that synthetic opioids, the dark red line, is rising drastically. If you see this even ends in 2019, I need to get some more recent data, but the more recent data, that red line would be well off the screen we're looking at here. So we kind of thought we had a problem before with that green line, which would have been like oxycodone, hydrocodone, and then we really cracked down on the prescribing of these things, and then there the fentanyl came in. So we have a bigger problem today than we've ever had. I will say from my interactions with people who use drugs and reviewing urine drug screen toxicology reports at our office, the prevalence of fentanyl in our community is 5 to 10-fold what it was last year. You know, it's increasing drastically.
Do you know where it's coming from? Is this stuff that they talk about coming from Mexico? Is that do you have any idea?
So they say that it comes from Mexico, China,
Right.
you know, and it's not people around here that is putting fentanyl in methamphetamine. It's just methamphetamine that's brought in here already has fentanyl in it, or cocaine has fentanyl in it, or the biggest thing that's killing a lot of people today is these counterfeit pressed pills. You know, so somebody thinks they're taking an oxycodone and it's fentanyl, and it kills them. So these pills are the same color, they're the same shape, they have the same markings and emblems. Like, they don't know until they take it and they're dead. You know, same thing for Xanax, Adderall, all these are fake pressed pills. We have a very unsafe drug supply today, and that's why we're facing this overdose crisis that we are. I always knew that methamphetamine as well as other illicit substances can be tainted with fentanyl, but it wasn't something that we've started seeing until here recently, just in the past few months. Like, many of my patients who are using methamphetamine are now regularly testing positive for fentanyl.
Wow.
My patients who struggle with heroin, like they don't even have heroin in their system. It's maxed out levels of fentanyl in their system. So, you know, it's I fear these trends are just going to get worse, and that's why we're here today. That's why we're here to build these community partnerships and work together to promote the safety of the community that we live in and we love so much. So I wanted to talk a little bit about risk factors for a substance use disorder. Genetics plays a big part in it from the moment that we're born. Like, some people's brains are just wired differently, right? They have an imbalance in the opioid ligand system. One person takes a Lortab, it helps their pain. Like, that's it. One person takes a Lortab, it makes them the happiest person ever. One person takes it, they feel free, they feel relaxed, you know, and all of these things are related to brain structure changes in the way that our bodies metabolize, absorb, and excrete these medications. Psychological influences is a big risk factor. We know that people with anxiety, depression, other underlying mental health issues, like those individuals are more prone to use drugs because they often use drugs as an attempt to cope with those issues. Environmental influences, as we talked about, Ms. Lana earlier, addiction, substance use disorders are very rampant in our area. Like we know this. This is where we live. We see this every day. So, I mean, if someone grows up in a family where their parents use drugs, they're much more likely to use drugs when they're older. You know, it's just because it's learned behaviors. Age of first use is a big risk factor. The younger someone is exposed to these substances, the more likely they are to use these substances when they're older. Family history of mental health or substance use disorders. And we also know that ACEs, or adverse childhood experiences, increases someone's risk for not only substance use disorders, but like heart disease, diabetes, many other just premature deaths in general. This graph is really insightful, and I wanted to share it with you. So what it does is it compares individuals engaged in 3 different types of treatment. Individuals utilizing buprenorphine to facilitate their recovery, ones utilizing methadone to facilitate their recovery, and individuals who are using non-opioid agonist treatment, just with behavioral health interventions. And if you see the axis on the left, it shows the people who had continued use of illicit substances. The individuals who were using medications to facilitate their recovery had significantly, across the board, lower amounts of continued substance use as opposed to individuals who weren't using medications to facilitate their recovery. You know, at Revita Recovery Center, we are a behavioral health organization. We focus on counseling, we focus on care coordination, but we also understand the importance of the medication. You know, we have individual counseling, we have family counseling, we have group counseling, you know, we have counseling for veterans. You know, we provide a wide range of resources for our patients in our community so that hopefully they can find the one that they connect with the best and works the best for them. I wanted to talk a little bit about the treatment philosophy in addiction. So it's important for us to recognize that a substance use disorder is a chronic medical condition that responds best when treated with evidence-based, patient-centered, and ongoing care. It's not like you go there, you're treated, you're cured, you're gone. Like, it's ongoing treatment. The most effective treatment attends to multiple needs of the individual, not simply their substance use disorder. This really reiterates the importance of a multidisciplinary treatment team, which we have at Revita. You know, we are a preferred OBAT, office-based addiction treatment program, with the Virginia Arts, Virginia Medicaid system. We are the only office-based addiction treatment program in Southwest Virginia that is CARF credentialed. That is significant. And we are these things because of our role with the multidisciplinary team, because we have substance use care coordinators there at our office every day who are here to help these patients, to connect them with social services, to get them help renewing their Medicaid, to get them in with the primary care, to get them in with the specialist, to make for sure they have food, to make for sure they have housing, to arrange their transportation. You know, that's what our care coordinators do. They're advocates for our patients. And then we have the counselors who our patients see regularly. They can choose individual counseling, they can choose group counseling, whatever works best to fit their recovery and their goals and their treatment. What we know is that remaining in treatment for an adequate period of time has the best outcome. The longer someone is kept and engaged in treatment, the better their outcomes. So I wanted to really hit home on this. What are the goals of treatment? When we treat someone who comes in who suffers from a substance use disorder, what are the goals? The goals of treatment are to reduce or completely stop their substance use. For some patients, they might not be completely sold when they walk through our doors that they're ready to completely stop using drugs. We meet them where they're at, we help to keep them safe, and we help them to reduce and move them towards a goal of recovery. We want to keep them actively participating and engaging in treatment. We try to restore their physiological functions. We try to help them to restore to a functional lifestyle, right? You know, so that they can take care of their kids, so that they can take care of their disabled parents. We try to make for sure that they're engaging with their probation officer or their parole officer. We see if they're doing their community service, if they're paying their fines, like, do they have their driver's license? What do they got to do to get their driver's license? Do they have a car? Do they have stable transportation? Do they have a primary care doctor? These are the things that we're doing. So we really look to improve one's quality of life. And by doing that, we reduce the negative impact and the burden they have on our community. We want to provide the lowest possible barrier, like treatment on demand. When they're ready to get seen, we got to be there. We got to be there, and we got to be ready, and we got to be able to do that. Because it's that moment. You have a very short moment to get someone engaged in treatment. And it's really important to connect with them in that moment. We try to facilitate the patient's movement towards recovery by helping them to adopt new behaviors that support health, wellness, and purpose. There's one slide I think I skipped. Yes, I wanted to go over this real quick. Addiction is a primary chronic relapsing disease process. It causes structural and functional changes in areas of the brain that regulate reward, motivation, memory, and related circuitry. It's easy for us to look at these individuals and say, why do you do what you do? Why do you make these decisions? Right? That is addiction. Like it literally changes the structure in their brain. We have objective PET scans which shows these things. They show these things. It's very evident that the field of addiction medicine, we know this. So people with the disease of addiction, they continue to use substances or engage in behaviors that become compulsive despite harmful consequences. That's why as an addiction medicine clinician, like, it's never good to look at somebody and say, if you keep doing this, you're gonna die. They know. They're very aware that using drugs is bad for them, but they continue to do it because they suffer from the disease of addiction. So when we look at addiction, a lot of people have a misunderstanding of addiction. If you have a 70-year-old woman, she's been going to her primary care doctor, she's prescribed hydrocodone for 30 years. If she stops taking that medication, she goes to withdrawals. Withdrawals is not addiction, right? She's not addicted to hydrocodone. Addiction is role impairment. It's continued use despite harm. It's not being able to manage that prescription. It's taking that medication inappropriately. It's not being able to take care of her grandkids or be there for her family or do the things that she wants to do as a result of her desire to take that medication. That is addiction. Something that's important to hit on, I spoke a little bit about it earlier, is that the brain of a person who is predisposed to the disease of addiction is different from those who will never develop the disease of addiction, no matter how many dopamine spikes they're exposed to during their lives. So this just hits home with the fact that one person takes hydrocodone, it helps their pain. They take it as prescribed. They have no issues with it. One person takes hydrocodone and they feel numb, right? They feel happy. It gives them energy. They don't have a care in the world. And this didn't happen after years of use. Like, sometimes this is the first use. It's the most interesting question that I enjoy asking my patients. Like, when was the first time you took an opiate or an opioid? How did that make you feel? And when I have those patients that they just look at me and smile and they say it was the best feeling in the world, like, those are your people with the more severe substance use disorder. So it was nothing they had done before that made them that. It was, they had a lot of those risk factors that we talked about and the underlying physiology of their brain. So now I wanted to move on and talk about the Opioid Abatement Authority. Are you all familiar with what the Opioid Abatement Authority is? Slightly. So the Opioid Abatement Authority, it was part of a negotiated plan for the state of Virginia to accept national settlement offers. These settlement offers were an attempt at abating or paying reparations for the damage that was done as a result of the overuse of opioids. Negotiations for this required significant involvement from local governments. As a result, the Opioid Abatement Authority was created in the General Assembly of 2021. The executive director, which is Tony McDowell, was appointed August the 1st of 2022, and the office opened November the 1st of 2022. I've met and spoken with him multiple times. So Virginia's participation in the national settlement offers. In late 2021 to early 2022, the Virginia Attorney General's office worked with local attorneys and outside counsel representing the localities and with numerous other associations to encourage cities and counties to participate and drop individual suits. What they didn't want happening is they didn't want 50 or 100 different lawsuits on each of these manufacturers and distributors. They wanted to group them all into one lawsuit. So this resulted in a signed Virginia Allocation Memorandum of Understanding, or MOU, between all 133 counties and cities in the Commonwealth. The General Assembly then passed a statute which clearly monitors the MOU. The MOU and the state clearly specify that only cities, counties, and state agencies are able to receive financial support from the OAA, right? So Revita Recovery Center, we cannot apply for funds from the Opioid Abatement Authority, right? Scott County is guaranteed funds from the Opioid Abatement Authority and can get a lot more than that. Scott County has some requirements on what they have to do, how those funds have to be spent, how they have to report the spending of those funds. Currently, there is $500 million allocated to the state of Virginia for this Opioid Abatement Authority. There is ongoing pending legislation, or pending litigation, which is about to end. It'll make it almost $1 billion. This is a real chance. This shows some of the different distributors that there are that was involved in the litigation and the lawsuits. This graph, which is really important, I wanted to share it with each of you all. So this breaks down that 500 million or that $1 billion and how it's going to get broken up, how it has to be spent, da 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 da. You will see here the cities and counties' direct share, 30%. This is money that is going to be giving to you. It's guaranteed. Kind of got to say what you're going to do with it, what your plan is for it. If you report it appropriately, you get an additional incentive, which I'll talk about shortly. And then you will also find that there is additional funds, 55% on the right. This is extra funds which can be granted to cities and counties, particularly ones that are able to get together and do regional partnerships. Lee County, Scott County, Wise County, if they can get together and do regional partnerships, and they can get even more money than what's guaranteed in the 30%. You know, so this, all these challenges that Lena spoke about earlier, you know, that like it is substance use, it is addiction, which is the issue she faces. So we can work together, you know, in your all's position, we can work with the people who specialize in the treatment of these issues and really come get a good plan together. So this right here is the graph for Scott County. This breaks down each fiscal year over the next 17 years and exactly how much money Scott County will be given. You will see here the first column is the distributors. This is with people who didn't make the medication but who shipped it out to pharmacies. Janssen is a manufacturer, Mallinckrodt's another manufacturer. You will notice here that Mallinckrodt don't even have all the money that they will be paying, so it's to be determined. But if you look at the bottom and you add these numbers up over the next 17 years, it's almost $750,000 that Scott County is going to be getting. That's without the money from Mallinckrodt, and that money is going to be approximately doubled once this other pending legislation is done, right? So, I mean, possibly $1.5 million, which only represents a big part of that only represents the 30%. There could be much, much more money than that. If we get together and we work together with the people who specialize in treating substance use disorders, we have multiple professionals within our organization that are active with the Virginia Society of Addiction Medicine. We are currently working together to develop a toolkit to help to screen these grant applications. You know, why were we picked for this position? Because we are the specialists, right? We are the experts in this field. It's what we do. So you will see the from OAA, that column represents a portion of that 55% of extra money. And you'll see the 25% incentive. What that is representing is, I'll talk about it here in a little bit, but if you report the spending of the other money, which you're guaranteed the 30% appropriately, then you can get the 25% incentive. The links down below that are for where you can find this information and where you can find another link which talks about that 25% and how the county can help capture that. So the statutory requirements on the use of opioid abatement funds exceed the requirements of the National Settlement Agreement. So 100% of the opioid abatement disbursements to cities, counties, and state agencies must be spent on abatement efforts, right? There was a lot of concerns with the way that other grants have been used in the past. You know, they were for one substance or one issue and it got spent on completely different things. They wanted to make for sure they did not happen. So that's why they've made the language so very strict with it. There is no reimbursement of previous costs or supplanting allowed. So you can't take something that you've had and been paying for and then try to get paid for it again or try to get reimbursed money for it. You can't have any indirect charges, and recipients of this money must report the outcomes to the Opioid Abatement Authority on an annual basis and allow the Opioid Abatement Authority to monitor these programs. So this is something that can be done with a partnership with an addiction medicine organization who focuses on these things. How will the use of the funds be tracked? In accordance with the statute, all expenditures of OAA funds shall be conducted or managed by a participating locality or state agency. As we said, no one else other than state agencies, counties, cities can be given this money, right? They can say, which is what most or all of them are doing, that, hey, we're going to use this money for this, we're going to partner with this organization, and they're going to be providing these services. That's what happens. That's what most of them are doing. Most cities and counties aren't equipped to design and implement an entire program. So, but it has to get approved Every city and county is required by law to conduct an outside audit and report its expenditures to the state. Expenditures must also be reported to the Opioid Abatement Authority. Performance measures must also be reported to the Opioid Abatement Authority. So like you're saying, you're going to do this because of this reason, and how are you going to evaluate the effectiveness of it? The Opioid Abatement Authority will perform site visits and inspections to make sure everything's being done appropriately. Any concerns can result in detailed financial and programmatic reviews. So this is contact information that shows the different offices that we have across Southwest Virginia, Northeast Tennessee, a phone number that can reach all of our offices. We have attached our program director, Courtney Lawson, her business card in there, as well as my business card. My business card has my cell phone number on it. If you need me anytime, call. You know, we're not far away. We're just right in Duffield. You know, we would love to meet with you all and speak. We have many ideas about how this money could be used and the great things that it could do for our community. You all are in a very important position to make a decision which will most positively impact our community. So we would love to help you with that and share some guidance and some possible ideas. We're open for you all to come and visit our office, right? We're not far away. So many of you, I think Ms. Selma's been there, and I know you all are from other districts, but we would love for you all to come down to our facility. You know, we've did some renovations lately. It's a great place. I think you'll see that we have a really amazing thing going on.
Over on page 11, it's got those numbers up to almost 40,000, 36,359. That's the desk. What area, how much is that, like the state of Virginia, or what area is that on page 11?
On page 11.
Yeah, the graph that shows the red, the blue, the green, the yellow, orange, whatever.
On the frontier. That would be deaths, yes. And this is national. This is not the state of Virginia.
Okay.
Yeah, this would be national. And as I said earlier, the 2018, 2019, today in 2023, I don't think we have all the data from 2022 yet, but I mean, this number would be like off this book, you know. Fentanyl is here. It's killing people at an alarming rate. You know, we've talked, you hear this term opioid epidemic quite often, and it's a really inaccurate understanding. That's not what we have today. Today we have an overdose crisis. So this is not people getting addicted to drugs and then living a life of drug use. Like, people are dying at alarming rates across our country. We've been blessed that it hasn't really gripped our community yet. It just takes time. You know, I mean, I didn't see fentanyl in our office and our toxicology screens that often a year ago. Today I see it weekly, you know, so it's here. You know, when you speak and work with local EMS providers, like you hear about how many times they're going out and responding to overdoses regularly, you know, so I really have concerns for the future, and that's why we're here. You know, like we live here. Like my family's going to grow up here. You know, we love this place. We love our community, and I think it's important that we're in a position with our skills, knowledge, and expertise that we build these collaborative partnerships with places like the health department to really promote the safety of people who use drugs, right? Because people who use drugs, they're our family members. Like they're people who live here, and by helping them, we help the whole community, right? By promoting their safety and stability, we promote the safety and stability of the entire community. And that's what these funds are for. And that's why we want to encourage you and share knowledge and do anything we can to help and support.
One thing on the opioids, Suboxone, Subutex, methadone, what do they use for methamphetamine? What do they use?
That's such a good question, Danny. So currently there are no FDA-approved medications for methamphetamine use disorder. So the most effective interventions, right, is behavioral health interventions such as motivational interviewing skills. There's some research that shows some regimens have promise, which we use at our office. We have many patients who don't use opiates, has never used opiates, they use methamphetamine. Like, those patients are not on Suboxone. You know, they do not take buprenorphine. We utilize other medications. That's the naltrexone is one that shows some promise with it. It's the once monthly injection called Vivitrol, and then combining that with bupropion can also be quite helpful as well. But a lot of it is motivational interviewing techniques, like helping to find out where they're at and move them in the recovery, provide them with those care coordination services, provide them with the counseling services. Many, as we talked about earlier, people use drugs for a reason. You know, like drug use did something for them. So what we try to do is we try to find out why they use drugs to begin with. What were they attempting to self-medicate?
That's why I hear a lot of people say it's an illness but not a disease. It's a choice that they've made. And so I don't know, a lot of controversy, you can dress it up any way you want to, but it seems like it's more of a choice than a disease, but it is an illness. It's like if you get shot and get an infection, it's not a disease, you decide from the illness when you get shot. But people that are doing this, and I admire what you're doing, they need help. I know a lot of people, personally, even family members have issues with it. But anyway, I commend what you are doing, but anyway, the approach to these people to realize they've made bad choices. And so how much should be done? I mean, somewhere you gotta, I've seen people come off of it that does great. So but anyway, I admire what y'all are doing down there, but hopefully it'll help the people get their lives straight.
I agree. Like, people have an increased risk of making that decision initially to use drugs, but oftentimes once people who have the disease of addiction or develop, once they start using drugs, it's much harder for them to control this decision. It hijacks areas of their brain.
My father was an alcoholic, and we suffered a lot because of it. And so I know what addiction is. It's called whatever, but you know, it's pretty tough growing up in that.
I understand that. I was sharing with Joey earlier. That's why I work in the field of addiction. My family has really been ravaged by addiction. You know, I've lost family members as a direct result of addiction. Like, there are people that I love in this world today that I could get a phone call saying they're dead, and I know that that's what it was. So that's why I do this.
Any comments or questions for these folks?
I appreciate all that you do, and I do understand addiction. It's a strange thing. My very best friend that I ever had on this earth had an addiction to, you know, I broke my arm one time. She took me to the hospital after I got my pain medicine. She wanted it. She wanted some, and this was a sharp woman, but she was so addicted to prescription drugs or drugs, she died in her 30s mixing prescription drugs with alcohol. And but I saw her and I knew her, but she had this addictive personality, and I'd never seen anybody like that before. And you know, I wish that she could have gotten some help.
I'm really sorry for your loss, Selma. We've been participating in the Duffield Days parade in Duffield, and actually we've won the parade contest the past 2 years in a row. So it's been quite amazing. Yeah, love it. But there was a lady who came and shared that her son she lives in downtown Duffield, right near Duffield. Her son had just passed away from an overdose, and she said, you know, I can't help but think, like, I didn't even know you all was here. You know, I can't help but think if I knew you was here and I got him there, would things be different? So that's why we're here today. Like, we're just trying to increase awareness. Like, when it comes back to our vision and our ethics and our values, like visibility, you know, we're here. You know, we're here to help. So like you talked about, she makes prescription opioids with other pain medicines and alcohol. Like, you hear this word opioid epidemic, and it's so misleading. It's not just opiates that's the problem, right? It's addiction that's the problem. Like, it's polysubstance use. You know, if it was just opiates that was the problem, when we stopped prescribing all the opiates and opioids, then everybody would have been cured. But it didn't work that way. Like, we got a problem that's 10 times worse now than it ever was before, because people who use drugs, you know, in an effort to cope, and unless they're engaged in a quality evidence-based addiction treatment program, oftentimes those issues just continue to worsen. Miss Joey's here. Would you like to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to address something that you brought up earlier as far as choice and illness. I just wanted to share with you something that we see within our program is that, you know, most often it is not choice. It is generational at this point. And when you come from a family of drug abuse, you don't know any different. You don't know what you don't know. We have numerous clients who report to us that the first time they used a drug, it was given to them by their parent. That's heartbreaking.
It is.
I have 4 who have told me that they were injected by their parent at the age of 13.
Yes.
So I look at those people, and you know, for
Hope the
someone
parents
to
are
say,
in jail.
you know, for someone to say it was choice, it's not a choice for a 13-year-old.
Right.
And
Well, there's
by
exceptions.
the time they know better, it's too late. And-
It's like I said, my dad's an alcoholic, but I wouldn't drink because I seen what it did to him.
Right.
That was a deterrent for me to do that.
But your dad didn't give you alcohol.
He would if I'd
Didn't
asked
make
for it
you
again. I
drink
won't
it.
do it.
That's the difference there, and it's something that unless you work
Right.
with these individuals.
Well, there's exceptions to
daily,
everything, but I mean,
that
I
you
mean,
don't
it's,
understand,
there is.
you know, that it is, at this point, it is a generational disease. We very seldom see someone who is first generation substance abuse. So it's just something for you to think about and
Right.
consider. You,
Okay.
just like them, you don't know what you don't know.
Yep. Thank
Do you think it's self-medication for like an anxiety disorder or
Lots of
some
people
type of
self-medicate, yes,
disorder?
because it ultimately is a mental health crisis that we are in.
Mhm.
And so that's why it's so important that you look at the whole person and not just treat the addiction, but what's causing them to be so sad.
Anyone else?
What, how many, just curious, how many patients, I guess, do you all typically see on a weekly basis maybe or something?
It varies, you know, our
Does it?
patients face so many challenges with transportation. They recently changed a lot of the legal landscape when it comes to telehealth appointments, and they were hoping it was going to, you know, drastically increase the retention and engagement in addiction treatment, you know, but it didn't, you know, and particularly for our area, because even over telehealth, it has to be audio and visual platform, and most of our patients use drugs. They don't have a phone, you know, even if they had a Medicaid phone, then they lost it, or they live in it, they don't have Wi-Fi, or they live in an area that don't have cell phone signal. So it just, there's so many different variations. I can't even put an exact number on that. I know we do amazing things for our community. Like it's really inspiring to get to work in this field and to see the positive changes. And like Joey hit on, it's really important to treat the whole person. Like Courtney talked about earlier, you know, we don't just prescribe our patients an addiction medicine, you know, and they're out the door. Like we provide a lot of times like primary care services because they don't have a primary care doctor. Like we're treating their anxiety, we're treating their depression, we're treating some mental health issues. The more severe mental health issues we refer out to get those handled, but most of them just treating some of the basic stuff, it makes such a huge difference because they don't have a trusting relationship with the medical practitioner outside of our office. If we try to or attempt to refer them somewhere else to get it done, they don't go, you know, so it's important if it's going to get done, it gets done at our office, and that's why we do all those things. Like it's not just treating addiction, it's treating all the issues that contribute to the addiction or complications of the addiction, and we do all of those things.
Do y'all do testing, and what are some of the telltale signs? Because a lot of people obviously try to mask what they're doing, right?
Yes, that is such a good question, Mr. Tipton, right? So our drug screens, there's two different types of drug screens. There's like an initial drug screen that you do and you get point of care testing results. You get a result right then. The ways you can inspect that for signs of adulteration or that they did something, we have a temperature measurement on it. It has to be between 90 to 100 degrees to be acceptable. We look at the color of it. We look for other specifications. But then we send that urine sample off to an outside lab. Right, so when we send that drug screen off to an outside lab, we get a lot of really important clinical information like how concentrated it is, the specific gravity, the pH. If they have attempted to put something in that urine, it's very evident on that report. A lot of times the lab won't even run it. It's not uncommon for people to try to spike their urine specimen with like you say they're prescribed buprenorphine. They may try to put buprenorphine in the urine so it tests positive for buprenorphine, right? Well, our drug screens, they pick that up because when you take buprenorphine, your body breaks it down into a metabolite called norbuprenorphine. So when somebody does that, they have really high levels of buprenorphine in their system, in their urine, and they have none of the metabolites. So we know what they've done. You know, so it's not like shame on you, you're bad, you're horrible, you're gone. You know, it's like, what's going on? Talk to me. Why did you feel the need to do this? For most of them, they're using drugs and they didn't feel comfortable.
So what's some of the telltale signs?
The absence of the norbuprenorphine metabolite not being in their urine specimen, it not checking an appropriate temperature of 90 to 100 degrees Fahrenheit, the creatinine being off, many of those things. We have very, very useful tools based upon evidence to evaluate those things.
And something that we could see, or a family member could see.
That if somebody's using drugs, A telltale sign of someone who's possibly using drugs, just the changes in behavior, right? You know, there's never like a standard. Some people are just sad, some people are just hyper. But when you have these significant variations of it, you know, and you see that they're not able to fulfill their roles in life, right? Like they're not able to take care of their kids. Like they lost their job, they're losing their driver's license, they're not, you know, seeing their probation officer, they're not paying their fines. Like the biggest hallmark of addiction is role impairment. So if you see someone who is unable to fulfill their roles in life, and you see this erratic changes in behavior, you see the people that they're around, you know that those people use substances, all of these are concerns, you know. So I would encourage you to get that person to go to a program and just talk to them, you know. So the statistic that bothers me the most, right, is that only 1 out of 20 people who suffer with the disease of addiction receive evidence-based treatment, right? So only 5% of people who suffer from addiction receive treatment. And when we look at why, stigma's part of it, barriers are part of it, but most of them feel like they don't have a problem. So today, you have people dying before they realize they have a problem. So if you have any concerns, encourage them to go speak with a clinician who is skilled in these things and can provide them with an appropriate evaluation.
Very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Do you all have to have an appointment for a new person coming in, or they just drop in?
That's an excellent question too, right? As we talked about earlier, like when somebody's ready to get in treatment, like they got to be able to go right in, you know. So I will tell you, I like if someone walks into our office, they are going to get seen. Like we do not turn people away. We accept walk-in appointments. That is a very important thing to our organization.
And while you're on TV, you need to give them your address exactly. So a lot of people watch TV might not know where it's at.
Yes, so we are located at 198 Ross Carter Boulevard in Duffield, Virginia, Revita Recovery Centers. We're there Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, Tuesdays 9 to 6. We have an after-hours line. You can reach our staff 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If it's 2 o'clock in the morning and you want to make an appointment for the next day, you call. We can do that for you.
And what's this close to?
What's this close to? Duffield. So Duffield is between Gate City and...
I know where
It's in Thomas Village.
Thomas Village.
Yeah, in front of Thomas Village. There's 2 skilled nursing facilities right there beside us, right? What is it? Ridgecrest and
Kingston Center.
And Kingston Center,
Okay.
right? We have vinyl siding on the outside of our building. We've done a lot of remodeling recently, so we would love to have you.
After this meeting, we may stop in after a while.
That'd be great. So give me a heads up. Let me know what your comments are. Make sure I'm there. You know,
All right.
anytime.
Thank y'all for coming.
Thank you,
Appreciate
David.
you coming. All right. All right. Good presentation. Next item is Mr. Cox is here on the Smart Scale program. So you've listened to a lot today. Do you feel blessed or cursed?
I feel great.
All right.
Here in Scott County. I'm a native of Lee County. And thank you, Mr. Chairman and the board, for allowing me to speak for a few minutes. My name is Terry Cox, 895 Cane Gap Road, Duffield, Virginia, in the Stickleyville community. And I came here today to give you some helpful information. The VDOT, the Smart Scale Public meeting, May 15th, 4 p.m. at the Abington Community College for the primary state road meetings. And I've been going to that for years to try to get improvement across Powell Mountain, US 58 from Stickleyville to Duffield. And we finally got some work on the Lee County side, and I've been working with the supervisors of my home county, and they're turning in their application to get it to the bottom of the mountain on the Stickleyville side. And that is to be turned in by the 1st of August. And we score really high on that corridor. Only the Weber City corridor and the Interstate 81 score higher than that traffic and the metrics that they score. That comes in number 3 in far southwest Virginia. And I'm asking for the board to send a letter to the meeting or to be there to push for passing lanes on the westbound lanes on 58 coming from Duffield to the top of the mountain. The reason we need this on both sides and the reason Lee County's being proactive is because we have slow-moving traffic, heavy traffic, and it's going in the direction of our jobs eastward towards Duffield and the Tri-Cities, and our social activities and our advanced medical. And then we got our everyday supplies, heavy trucks going to and fro across it, and it connects I-75 back to through Cumberland Gap back to 2681 in Tennessee. And just ask that the board step up and send a letter or be there at that meeting and start being proactive on their side of the mountain, getting passing lanes on that westbound lane. And thank you. I would like to turn in this. I was in Danville, Virginia a few days back. I go that way off of I-77 on the 58 to Danville, and I had to go due south into Chapel Hill, North Carolina to visit family. And they were the 58 project across Lover's Leap at Stewart, Virginia, the highest elevation on US 58 from Virginia Beach to Cumberland Gap, moving 22 million cubic yards of earth. And so surely we can get some work, like I told the Lee County supervisors, we can get some work on Powell Mountain to alleviate those issues we have that I just spoke of. And I'd like to turn this in to the board.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you a lot, and I appreciate what you do for Scott County and the region. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Cox. I agree with you. Passing lanes are very needed on that highway. I've experienced it, but it's a real problem.
All right. Anybody have any comments for Mr. Cox? Anyone else say on this? Anybody else? We'll look at it and see what we can do, and but we have discussed this, prior to the meeting. We'll discuss it more. We'll see what happens with it. Thank you for coming. Appreciate that. Next item is the Scott Service lease. So, Ms. Sarnes.
The lease is on your tablet. It is for 6 months, and then we'll move to monthly afterwards, depending how long it takes to get permanent space for Scott Service. The need for this came about because of the demolition project with the old jail and the annex building that would take the space that they are currently in. And I'm asking for authorization to sign the lease pending approval by Soil and Water, and also $3,000 from your contingency fund for 2 months and a security deposit.
We do all that in one motion. Do we divide it up to?
I think you can do it all together.
Okay. All right, need a motion to authorize Ms. Starnes to sign this lease, and then the $3,000 from our contingency fund. Any discussion, or somebody make a motion?
So moved.
Which one make a motion? Darryl?
Yeah.
Darryl made a motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Ricky second. Any discussion? All in favor, vote by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next item is Fuel Doors here on the enterprise zone incentives. Do it, John.
Morning, members of the board.
Good morning.
Thank you for the opportunity to share about the enterprise zone. Scott County, of course, is in one of the 57 designated enterprise zones in the Commonwealth of Virginia. So that enterprise zone means there's certain tax advantages of moving into that enterprise zone. It's a way that the county can match a state grant if we have an industry that wants to move in the enterprise zone. It's also a way for you all to entice businesses to move within that enterprise zone. The enterprise zone comprises of basically all of Duffield, and it travels 23 all the way to River City, and it goes to the town of Gate City, and then it goes all the way to Nicholsville on 71, and then all the way to Dungannon as well on 72. So it's a good way to entice the economic development and investment in those areas. So as a result, we've got 3 companies that actually qualify for enterprise zone incentives. And one of those, of course, is Temper Sealy, and I don't think there's ever been many times they haven't come and talked about that because they had so many expansions, or VFB, either one. But as a result of the 2013 expansion, Temper Sealy has qualified for a machine and tool tax grant and real estate tax grant of 60% by averaging over 2.5 times the minimum wage rate. They paid machine and tool taxes on that expansion totaling $27,587.99 and real estate taxes of $4,997.59. Their tax grant will be $19,551.34, provided you all vote for that. And I might say on these, we actually verify their average hourly wage rate, and we have to also verify that they pay their taxes. So they do, all these have paid their taxes. Also, as a result of the 2013 expansion, VFP is another one. They have qualified for machine and tool tax grant and real estate tax grant of 100% by averaging over 2.5 times the minimum wage rate. They paid machine and tool taxes on the expansion items totaling $14,214.03 and real estate taxes of $25,692.29. Their tax grant would be $39,908.32. And as a result of, you also can, I've talked about the business growth in the enterprise zone. This is photogenesis. They did qualify for a real estate tax grant of 40%, averaging over 1.5 times the minimum wage rate. They paid a real estate tax of $2,782.40. Their tax grant would be $1,112.96. Now, all of these, of course, have expanded in the designated enterprise zone in Scott County. And I might note too that these expansions on Temper and BFP, this is just a portion of the tax that they pay to the county. This is only 10% of the total tax they pay to the county. So, a lot of people ask, well, why are you giving a tax break? But you're actually not. It's only a portion. It's only on the expansion. So Temper will not roll off. They'll roll another expansion on next year, and BFP will too. Both of them have expanded again. So you'll see them again in future enterprise zone applications.
Okay. John, VFP, you said 39,208, is it, or 908, is it 906?
906.
Okay.
I might have missed.
I'll make sure we vote on it.
Sorry, 906.
You need my
32.
glasses.
I might need your reading glasses.
I want to make sure when we vote on it, get the exact dollar amount, so it would be exactly right. So.
Thank you, Dave.
All right. Anyone here, any comments or questions? All right, it's very important. This enterprise zone has worked for the county and for the businesses. I appreciate them doing that, but it's a payback to them and an incentive. So anyway, in discussion here, if not, we entertain a motion to pay the total amount of $60,570.62. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the incentives.
All righty. Ms. Hood made a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Tippin, second. Any discussion? All in favor, vote by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. So.
Thank you all for your support. I appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, next item on the agenda, page is here, is the opioid abatement grant application. And so you have that, Sally? Okay.
We have a presentation.
Okay. All righty.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Sandy Odell, and I'm the Executive Director for the Community Services Board, and we have Christy Hammonds, who's the CEO of Frontier Health, with us to talk about a joint application project between the 4 localities in our region Lee Scott Wise in the city of Norton. And we want, after talking with the county administrators and the city manager, to submit an application to the State Opioid Abatement Authority for a cooperative partnership with the 4 localities to establish an intensive outpatient program for children, working with kids who are at high risk for substance use disorders or who may already be using substance abuse. We want to be able to prevent those kids from becoming addicted or in the same situation that many of their parents or grandparents are in, or other family members. We would request a local match from your local distribution of the opioid abatement money. The total project would be for up to 5 years with the State Opioid Abatement Authority funding. And we would ask for an allocation of $10,254 from Scott County's distribution. Each of the 4 localities would give an allotment for that based on your local funding. So it would be in ratio to what your local funding is. The total project for the first year would be $346,000. And your portion of that then would be $10,254. We're asking to match the project with 20% total from the 4 localities. And Scott County is our last meeting of the week, and the other 3 localities have approved that. So Christy's going to talk about the intensive outpatient program for kids.
Again, thank you so much for your time today. This program is an intensive outpatient adolescent treatment program. It's Monday through Friday. Our hours currently that we're looking at are 8:30 to 2:30, Monday through Friday. So while in the age range is 13 to 18, so really kind of focused on our kiddos who are getting up to that age where they're struggling in school. Maybe they've had some truancy issues. They could have been court involved or not court involved just yet. Maybe they're a referral from one of our community partners that we work with or the school system. So we would be working in collaboration and coordination with our juvenile courts across all the localities as well as the school systems to identify at-risk needed kids from 13 to 18. They may be behind in school, so while they're in the program, we would be working with them on that educational component to keep them either up to speed with where they're at, grade appropriate, and or get them caught up, as well as individual therapy, group therapy, family therapy, to kind of provide those wraparound services as well as case management and coordination. Again, all of this would be in collaboration with community partners, whether or not that be their counselors at school, teachers at school, court system, whatever judge could have ordered this treatment and care. From a timeline, it looks like kids are usually in the program between 3 to 6 months for treatment before graduation. We do have evidence-based curriculum that we use for this program within our group therapy. So we use 2 different forms of evidence-based curriculum for group, and that's our Hazelden curriculum and the matrix model. And as far as individual therapy, we use cognitive behavioral therapy and a new tool, EMDR, if you've ever heard of that, is eye movement desensitization treatment and care. That is a new tool that we've been using a lot with individuals who've experienced trauma. And we know a lot of times these children and these adolescents have experienced trauma in their homes or other areas. So it's so just trying to kind of think of some of the other things that you guys would want to know from a timeline perspective. The application I think is due Friday. So we've got everything about pulled together to be able to get that submitted. Should we receive funding, we're looking at trying to get this program up and running probably early fall, so looking at September, so right as they're getting back to go to school in August. Hopefully by September, we'll have this open and ready for referrals. Our current location that we're looking at right now is at our Big Stone Gap location, right there at the line. So that way we'd be able to serve all localities starting out. As we see the growth in referrals between White counties, we may end up having additional programs within embedded communities, just depending upon the growth and the need that we see.
Is this $10,254, is that for each year, for 5 years, or is that a total for the 5 year?
We're asking for it for the first year, and then we have to resubmit a budget every year beyond that. And
So this would be for 1 year, this $10,254.
So that brings up a good point for years 2 and 3. And so a lot depends on if we need an additional program from a budget perspective. So we are looking to anticipate growth. The other thing is we will be able to bill Medicaid for the adolescents who have Medicaid for intensive outpatient program services. So this, of course, would be licensed through DBHDS, and of course, we would get accreditations and so forth as appropriate for the state. So we hope to kind of build in some sustainability around that. So hopefully, our budget year to year would decrease as far as what our needs would be. Good question.
Okay. Any other comments or questions for anyone? So 20% allocation would be $10,253.71. Is that correct? That's the exact amount. Okay. All right. Any more comments or questions? All right. Your thoughts on this to approve this amount? Mr. Starnes, you want to chime in here and see what? We got everything in front of us here, but.
We currently have about $125,000 that we've received in opioid money, so we have the funds available for the match.
Okay.
And like they said, they've been meeting with the county administrators from Lee Scott Wise and the city manager of Norton, and they have, some programs that they've been working on that they think would be good fits for opioid funds. This is for a regional project, so it's for a pot of money that you have to apply for through the state. And like they said, the grant application's due on Friday.
Okay.
So.
All right. Need a motion to approve the amount from that settlement. Do we have a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Ricky made a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Let's do a second. Any discussion? All in favor, vote by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
I also need authority to sign the grant application. Wise County will be the fiscal agent for the grant,
Okay.
but each of the county administrators will need to sign.
I need a motion to authorize Ms. Starnes to sign that necessary documents. Do we have a motion? Mr. Jeter made a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Tippin, second. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, ma'am.
for your support. Thank you.
Well, that was 15A. Item 15B, we added to the agenda. Ms. Starnes.
In your packet, you have the RIFA resolution. Back some time ago, each locality in the RIFA footprint adopted a new tax rate for data centers. And this resolution is in support of data centers for the Lonesome Pine Regional Industrial Facilities area. And to recruit based on that tax incentive. So within the next month, each of the localities, which is Lee, Scott, Wise, Dickinson, and Norton, will be considering the same resolution.
Okay. The resolution is in your packet if you have a chance to look at it, so we'll need to get this done. So we do have a motion to approve this resolution as presented to you.
I'll make that motion.
All right, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Tipton made a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Jeter, second. Any discussion? All in favor, vote by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, item C, ARPA.
We have two projects we would like for you to consider using ARPA funding. And that would be for budget items for next fiscal year, 24. We're asking for $84,000 to be for the volunteer fire departments. That's $12,000 each in fiscal year '24 budget, and $200,000 for EMS payroll support in the fiscal '24 budget.
All right. And you all serve on our ARPA committee. Appreciate what you do in this. It's been a tough thing to have to do, but you've done well with it. So again, I thank you for what you're doing. So we need a motion to approve this money to come from that ARPA. These ARPA projects, we approve from that pot of money. Do we have a motion to do that?
So moved.
All right, Mr. Bricky made a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Tippin, second. Any discussion? All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. All righty. Ms. Vickers here on bookkeeping. If you would.
Please appropriate $15,000 to Tourism ARPA Grant 7260-5637 for monies received and deposited at the Treasurer's Office. Appropriate $477 to Sheriff's Office for repair and maintenance of vehicles. 31200-6009 for an insurance claim received and deposited. And appropriate $20,821.41 to Sheriff's Office. DCJS CESF grant number 8866 as listed below for reimbursement received and deposited at the Treasurer's Office. 3120-1100 salaries, $14,396.16. 2100 employers FICA, $1,040.61. 2210 employers cost VRS, $1,984.37. 2300 employers share health insurance, $3,205.62. 2400 group life insurance, $173.25. And 2600 unemployment insurance, $21.40.
All righty. Do we have a motion to approve the appropriation as described by Ms. Vickers? Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Jeter made a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Atkins, second. Any discussion? All in favor, vote by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next item is Ms. Tina's here on appointment, so if you wouldn't say.
You have two appointments with the Recreation Advisory Board. These are by district. District 1, Betsy Gibson has been serving, and she no longer wants to serve on this board.
Okay.
Derek France has been trying to find someone for that, but he was unable to do so. Keith Warner has been serving for District 3. He did not submit an application, but he is interested in serving.
Okay. Start with District 1. Do we have any nominations for District 1?
I've talked to some people, Danny, but I haven't got no names back yet. I'm still working on it.
Look at it again in June. Okay. So no nominations for there. Do we have any nominations for District 3?
I nominate Keith Warren.
Okay.
I did talk to him yesterday as well.
All right. Any other nominations? If not, entertain a motion, nominations cease, and we vote by acclamation.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Mr. Tippin made a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Atkins, second. Any discussion? All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. All right. County Attorney items, Mr. Kegley, have anything for us?
I don't have anything today.
All right, anybody have any comments or questions for Ms. Kegley? All right, thank you, ma'am. County Administrator items, claims, Ms. Starnes.
The general fund balance is $12,378,551.27 after claims for this month. As you can see on your comparison chart, we are quite a bit above where we were this time last year, but we are still waiting on an invoice for the school system to pull down their allotment. So with that taken into consideration, we're right on line with where we were last year. Early claims for the month totaled $153,873.63. Current claims total $156,284.84. So total claims for the month, $310,158.47.
What is that Treasurer of Virginia check? What is that? That it says third quarter fiscal year 2023? We know.
It's payroll for the extension office.
Oh, okay.
That's Scott Gerald's area. Let me say something about that. I was over at David Mann's farm the other day. He was there. I did not realize what they do. He was there going through all of the stuff, the pH stuff, the magnesium and all stuff. So I was really surprised that they did all that. And he went through it, I was trying to learn something there, but I didn't know they worked that close with the farmers to do that stuff.
He also has been a big help at the golf course, working on the grass and getting all of that in good shape. So he's been a big benefit for the county as well. But there is a budget section in our county budget for the extension office, and that's what this is in relation to.
All right. Any comments or questions from Ms. Starnes about paying the bills?
I'll make the motion that we pay the bills.
All right. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Said second. Any more discussion? All in favor, vote by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
I have a couple things under miscellaneous. The MEOC Walkathon, which the county helped sponsor, is going to be held Sunday, May 7th at 2 o'clock at Bullitt Park, and you all are invited to participate if you would like to do so. And the loader lease, our loader for the transfer station is being repaired. We need to ask for another month of lease from contingency, $5,500.
Gotta have it. Thing's so important for that center up there. All right, do we have a motion to take $5,500 from our contingency fund on this loader lease?
Yeah, I'll make the motion.
All right, Mr. Harris made a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Gibbs, second. Any discussion? All in favor, vote by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
And the next thing I have is purchase of a Ford Explorer. The total amount is a little bit different from what is in your packet because of delivery charges. We can either pick that up or have it delivered for so many cents per mile. So the total for your consideration is $38,434.85, and this would be on state contract, and it would be for economic development. And it would be paid for with local area tribal consistency funds.
Where would the pickup be?
Richmond. It's Sheehy Ford. They're on the state, they have the state contract.
All right. Do we have a motion or any more discussion? Do we have a motion to approve this?
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Ricky made a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Tippin, second. Any discussion? All in favor, vote by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
That's all I have.
Well, thank you, ma'am. Next is Mr. Kilgore's here with the EDA, so come forward, please.
You don't have another couple hours, maybe everybody's gone.
Yeah,
I'm just kidding. I kept watching people leaving.
Yeah, they don't want to hear you, but that's what it was.
That's it.
Yeah, we want to.
Hold on just a minute while that comes. I appreciate the opportunity to present. Appreciate y'all for the enterprise and of course for all business. Seems like I was just here, I think it was February, but anyway, since then, we've had a great announcement here for Duffield. And, you think about how long some of these projects take. They take time, a lot of times. We started working on this one in 2021, and finally you see this coming. So they'll start construction there. This is a Family Dollar Tree store. That is the footprint that's going to happen beside Hardee's in Duffield and right on 58. So they worked on that. A lot of permitting issues and things like that that they had to go through. And of course you got the river that's close by, DEQ permits and all kinds of things that we got to work with them on that. We do some of that with retail, and that's an example of one company we worked with. We've worked with financial institutions before. We've worked with McDonald's before and Food City. So we do that occasionally. And a lot of times that they're having some type of issue or need help with assistance. I guess the first one I really got involved with was East McCready here in Gate City back in the day when they had an issue, and we helped them out with that, and the county did. So anyway, it's just an ongoing process and things you have to work through to entice business and keep them, moving on their schedule that they want to, grow their business here in the county. We appreciate them. We also appreciate Dollar General. They're two of our big key retailers here in the county. Of course, Dollar Generals are everywhere, but the Dollar Tree is moving that way too. Again, we promote Riverside. Of course, probably we continue to work with the Landstar Development and working with Virginia Housing Authority currently on a potential grant to assist that project. But they continue to work on the final design. We have a meeting with them this afternoon, and hopefully we'll have further details, but we have not got the final yet, so maybe he'll bring that this afternoon. So we're still working with them on that. He's also been able to, get the message out on the Riverside property on our behalf to potential retail businesses, and that is a good thing as well. So he's helping us market that as well. And that was the area that he looked at and, approved by the planning commission was the area for housing development, and they approved that last year. Also, another large project we've been working with is the AMBLR grant through the Virginia Department of Energy. Of course, used to be Department of Mines, Minerals, and Energy. A lot of y'all know, but now it's Virginia Department of Energy. The total budget for this project was, of course, to improve the trail since the parking area has been improved. And a part of this one was to improve the parking area on the National Forest property. So if y'all have ever been on that and parked there, there was a lot of, you really had to have four-wheel drive to park there most of the time. There's some cars.
It's hard to park a Prius there.
Yeah, there's some cars actually got stuck there before. So this was a part of this project, but we haven't been able to do that part of the project yet. We've been mainly focusing on the trail with Appalachia Conservation Corps. So the estimate on the project was $353,430.18. The great thing about this is AMBLR, they just approved additional funding for the trailhead parking area. So once that's approved, they haven't given us a amount yet, then we can put that money and help the Jefferson National Forest improve that parking area. Hopefully the next time we bid that out, we'll have the funds to do that. So that was a good thing. Now, you may see people, if you go up there, that the ACC folks will be working. They've had one crew working there, and they hope to get another crew and have double crews and finish this project by
Are they camped out up there when they come to?
They are camped out on our property and then working on the trail. That's what
Well, they were a couple of years ago, they were hanging off, they were camped out there working on that trail. They probably 8 or 10 of them, but actually
that's what they love to do, just camp there and then work on the trail.
Yeah.
So improvements in the trail, hopefully at the end of this we'll have not only be safer, but they'll have signage. So, people will know how to get in and out of there.
Roger Carter, appreciate that.
Yeah, I think we all will.
Yeah.
Is there Wi-Fi up there where you could use?
There's Wi-Fi at the barn and area where the parking area, where the county parking area is, yes. So that's why they like to camp there, is because they've got Wi-Fi there too. So. Also working with TVA, Mountain Empire Community College. This is on a workforce investment grant, so helping them with, trying to entice additional workers and communicate this to hopefully high school students as well. So hopefully here this year we'll be presenting that in the in-service days when the teachers go back, and have some employers talk to them about some career paths and things that they have in Duffield. So this only covers the Duffield area, remember, because it's a TVA grant. So we'll help those in the TVA area, and hopefully get more people in to apply for jobs for these career paths that they have in Duffield. Because not only is it hard to find workers in social services, it's hard, period, for them to find workers and skills. And that's across the nation. That's not just in Duffield, that's across Virginia and across the nation. Skilled labor is hard to find. Welders, electricians, all that's hard to find. If you're building a house, try to find somebody to build that. You're a long delay on those now. We also have a Scott County, our Rural Business Development Grant, and that's through the Rural Development. We've had 38 loans approved today and $697,700. Now, that's not the total grant that we've got, but this is a revolving loan program, so we loan that money out and then we get it back, we can reloan it again. So 6 of those businesses have been tourism related, 22 retail and 10 support businesses, 83 employees. The board just approved 2 new ones. You'll be hearing more about those based on, we have to verify collateral and things like that. And you'll be hearing one of those is in the Duffield area and one of those in Nicholasville. So we'll let you know as soon as they want to be ready to take our ribbons on those.
Is there an interest rate on that, on those loans?
We do have an interest rate, and that's by our policy, it's 2% nominal interest rate. So then they give that back, then we loan it, that money back out.
Right.
So we just put that in a pool so we can loan it back out. Ribbon cuttings, we had the Mammo's House Airbnb, and we also the De Pomeray restaurant. I can't, that's a hard one to say, but hopefully that's right. So the Greek chili restaurant, and we go, you all go out and try that one. And as far as the Airbnb, you probably have stayed at those at other places, but probably not in Scott County. But tell everybody we have Airbnbs in Scott County. I know that I know of one, believe it or not. And Selma used to work at East, you'll appreciate this, so there is an Eastman shutdown. And I know one that they have rented that through the rest of the year to 2 people that are coming in working a shutdown at Eastman.
Wow.
So that's pretty, I couldn't believe that was happening. So
That's good.
Did I speak on the Airbnb? We do have Airbnbs. Most of our people go to Devil's Pet. My wife has one here in Gate City, and she has a doctor coming in, I think, in a week from Germany, staying a month, and he's working over in Norton. So it's universal. It's not just here in this area.
And we do have the VCTA, which is the regional grant funds, and this program provides grants up to $10,000. They have changed that program a little bit, VCTA has, so it's not, they don't fund a lot of the service industry much anymore out of this, but they will do other types of business. So I would have to get with the Small Business Development Center to see if they qualify, these new businesses. However, they do qualify for our loan program, so we continue to work with Small Business Development Center on that. Small Business Development Center has an office in Duffield. Of course, that's out around Empire Community College. 15 Scott County businesses, though, have received grants from VC in the past on the city capital, up to $145,000. And then we have our local grants through COVID, and just a reminder of that, about $1 million y'all invested in small business throughout the county, and that was really good. And business all over the county, there's a map of where they were located within the county. And we continue to market our assets, of course, all over the county, Duffield, and their industrial park, Prairie Road Tech Building, also Riverside with Landstar Development. We also have interest in, we help promote other lands like the mine in Duffield as well. Any questions?
Anybody? Anything? All right.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Well, we're getting close to the end. Lunchtime kicking in. All right, comments, requests, recommendation from the Board of Supervisors. Mr. Jeter, do you have anything?
I'd just like to thank everybody for the prayers and the cards, and nice being back.
Glad to have you back. Missed you. All right, Mr. Tippett.
Yes, I would like to thank the board and for what you do, and also the staff for what you do in terms of the county. And I would like to, last month I spoke about some possible funding for the Veterans Memorial. Our veterans, they've served and they continue to serve. That tank out there is in bad need of restoration. And so our group had, as we mentioned the last time, and I sent to the budget committee a flyer. They have it, Mike and Stephanie. And we've raised, as of to date, $3,000 already, and we have promises of other coming in. And so I would just like to, and if you have any questions, please ask. I would just say with our veterans, the Honor Guard does a tremendous, an awesome service for those that have passed and for those families. They have oftentimes 2 and 3 funerals a day, and so they work arduous hours in that capacity. So what we're asking is something to make our Veterans Memorial out there on Highway 72 to get it looking back good again. And would appreciate any help that our county would do. We'd just ask consideration for whatever amount that you determine from the contingency fund that would help us to get this thing started, get it rolling. And that's all I have.
Okay. You have a recommended amount that you want from the contingency fund? I mean,
well, I left it with the budget committee. I'm not sure what amount.
we'll see what comes out of that. Maybe in the June meeting we do our budget stuff. We can see that. I'm sure I'll have.
Could we not do that? Maybe we got the either out here or in our this afternoon discussion.
We can discuss it then too. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I don't know. $1,000 maybe.
What do we have in contingency fund, Frida? Do you know?
You have about 20 left.
20,000. Okay.
Do you have a figure what it's gonna cost?
Yes, we do. At $10,000. We've already raised $3,000. We have the promise of another $2,500 coming in, and so we have other donors, in the meal. So it's not like that we're not doing anything. So we're working hard to reach our goal, and I feel pretty confident that we will. And so we'd appreciate any consideration that our county would do to help that endeavor.
Okay. All right. Thanks, sir. Mr. Herron.
Appreciate what everybody does. Thankful about the road situation. Seems like Snowflake's gonna maybe in a few years get some relief. All the situations. But anyway, I thought this was going to be a little easier than what I thought it was going to be, but I don't think it's going to be. But come August, I've got to start some training, and I will not be able to be here come the September meetings through the end of the year. And I've thought about it, and of course, we do a whole lot more than just sit in this seat. This is the easy part, I think. A lot of the times out in the public is the trying to figure out situations is the hardest part. But anyway, I've decided just I'm going to resign. I'll be here till August. But the August meeting will be my last meeting. Appreciate the opportunity, the people. Appreciate you all. But
Jeremy, you've been an asset to District 3, I'll tell you that right now. I mean, I know what goes on, not only here, and when I talked to you there yesterday evening, you told me what your intent was, and if I thought I could talk you out of it, I'd have tried, but I didn't. But but you have been an asset. I hope the people in District 3 realize what they have and what they've had in you and what they have in you. So you have served your county, your district well. So.
But anyway, that's just what I have to do. That's just part of it. And appreciate the opportunity.
We thank you. Anyone else want to comment on what you just said?
I appreciate Jeremy for what he's done, and he's definitely been an asset to our board. I've reached out to him many times, and he has likewise, and he's been a team player, so appreciate your hard work.
Yeah. Anyone else?
I would love to say, it has truly been an honor to serve with you. And I appreciate just being able to sit here with you and work through these things with you. I mean, we've had a rough 3 years.
That's true.
And you have handled it with integrity and grace, and I admire that.
Thank you.
And I appreciate what you've done.
Anyone else?
Best of luck in whatever you're going into, your endeavor, whatever it is.
Thank you.
You're good. The whole board's been great to work with. Yeah. I appreciate all of it, you especially.
Yeah. Anyone else?
You've been a real asset, Mr. Heron. I will miss you. Not only have you worked really hard for your residents and your district, but you've added a lot to the county, serving on all the committees, and you've just been a real asset, and you'll be very much missed.
Anyone else? Not, like I said, I talked to Jeremy yesterday, he told me his intent, and a lot of people have the misconception, this is all we do. Folks, this is the easiest part of being on the Board of Supervisors, what we're doing here today. And somebody said I need to make a copy of my calendar each month to show all the other things we have to do that's tied to this board. We're serving on Social Services Board, at APCA. I mean, I'm on 3 or 4 boards myself, Glen Wisco, that we have to do. And it's all part of being on this board. And so people that is desiring to sit here, I hope they don't think this is all you do. Somebody posted on the internet that we get $150 an hour for sitting here. You know, we get paid $300 some a month for a 2-hour meeting. And I didn't respond to that, but there's a level, I'm not gonna say ignorance, there's a lot of things I'm not stupid, ignorance, you just don't know. I don't have to fly an airplane, I'm very ignorant to that. But Jeremy, what you've done here, you had an impact there, and so anyway, it's been an honor serving with you. So anyway, we wish you well as you go on. But anyway, like I said, this is the easiest part of what we do, is these meetings. Even though it can be contentious sometimes, we gotta deal with things, but it's the easiest part. Mr. Brickney.
Last meeting, Steve Pike came and addressed us, Spearhead Trails, the new director, I suppose, supervisor is his name, is his title, but several of us went up there a couple of weeks later and met with him and took a good side-by-side ride over Scott County. It's in Scott County, the property up there. And I said this 2 or 3 years ago when Danny and I went up, and I still think it's a gold mine on High Knob up there, and Wise County is going to develop more on their side. And we are getting it's 3 or 4 miles. Which is it?
It's 6.8 miles total, and paid about half of it's going to get paid from the Wise County side down.
Yes, and eventually, I went up 615 and then came back down to build on the east side. And Bart Camp Lake is down there. We've got Devil's Bathtub, of course, and if we could get 615, a better way to get in there. That road's rough right now, but to get a better way to get in there. Eventually, it won't be during our terms, but eventually that'll be a great recreation site up there. But I'm glad to see Steve Pike come in here. I think he's building a home in Scott County, and he'll be an asset to the county.
The thing about that paving, it's FLAP, F-L-A-P is the acronym, it's Federal Land Access something or other, that's what the acronym stands for. So it's federal dollars doing that. It's not, it's nothing to do with our 6-year road plan, nothing like that. It's something the federal government's doing to get an access into that. Now, if you kept up in the city of Norton, what they're doing, they're building that, they're really promoting the high knob. But you can get there, it's paved, you can get there easier from that side. But one day, you know, and I told one guy, I said, you know, the north side of the mountain's the back side. We're on the front side. You're on the back side of the mountain, but they don't like that. They said they're the front side, we're the back side. Doesn't matter, just play on words. But anyway, good point. I'm glad that they're.
And appreciate Lisa going too. Lisa rode up with us that day.
Good. Yeah.
Got a ride around. Saw Beach Mountain from the back side.
That's good.
I told her that on the way up, and I don't think she believed me.
That project is in your plan that you adopted today. It's 2 miles and construction
It is.
is supposed to start in October this year.
Okay,
Good, it is. All right, anything else, Mr. Brickman?
no, that's all.
All right, Ms. Hood.
Well, I'm pleased to see Mr. Jeter back. Was concerned about him, glad to see that he's well. And I was pleased with the EDA report, and a lot of Duffield was mentioned several times, which is dear to my heart. Town seems to be growing. It may be a large city. I may be mayor someday. But, and Jeremy, I really care. You made a hard-hearted Supervisor Hood cry. And that's all I have.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Addington.
I too thank all the staff and everyone in the county office here for all your hard work and everything that goes on behind the scenes that $350 doesn't pay for, you know. But anyway, Jeremy, I am really gonna miss you. I am really gonna miss being able to, well, I'll just say this. Just because you're gonna leave doesn't mean we can't call upon you to say, hey, help.
And get advice.
And get advice. So yeah. And it is good to see Daryl back.
Good to be back.
It's good to be back.
Save myself the last, I can do that. Sally made a copy of that MOU from the Nicholasville Park, and I was reading through that, and what Mr. Victor stated about them having the authority to make that decision, I don't see it in there. Anyway, something to think about. We'll talk about more in June, but you got a copy of it, and I went through this. Sally, did you see anything in there that would give them the authority to decide?
Glanced through on that cruise on the, I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
They're all
Yeah.
separate.
But anyway, this was signed, I signed this back in 2012. Shoot, I was brand new out of the box. Anyway, look at this and be thinking about how we need to proceed with that, but anyway, that's it. One other thing, I was approached, and Stephanie might have to chime in on this. The Methodist camp at Fort Blackmore, they're doing a lot of work there, and they're building a swimming pool. They're rehabbing the old one, and they're spending a lot of money, and I was asked in a roundabout way, and I've talked to Ms. Kager about it. I want her to find out if we can do anything to help that. I asked that the pool be used by people other than the church group, and he said yes. So I don't know, it's a Methodist camp, it's a church organization, but if we, I don't know, I don't want to do something here that would cause other churches to say, well, we're building something, we want you all to help us do that too. I don't want to set a precedence here that would cause that. But anyway, that they're spending, well, they had a $100,000 gift to help do it. That's not enough to do it. The parking at the pool at Natural Talk, $4 million to fix it, so you can imagine what it's going to cost for them to fix that pool there at the Methodist camp. Think about it for the next time. I don't know, but we'll let Ms. Kegler research and see yea or nay, and I'm not so sure we can, it being a church-affiliated facility there. That's just a camp area. They got a meeting room, and they're rebuilding the swimming pool, doing all that. But something to think about for the next deal. Anyway, Jeremy, thank you. We'll hug and cry in August. Hang on. All right.
Well, I didn't think I'd do that, but.
That's all right. That tells me one thing about your heart's in it. And your heart's in the right place. That's what that tells me. So, all right, anything else before we adjourn to the budget shop?
Hey, Danny, on the tank, Can we make a motion now to give $1,000
Sure.
contingency?
We can. Do you want
I'd
to do
like
that?
to make that.
All right. All right, Mr. Jeter has made a motion for $1,000 from our contingency fund to this, memorial. The tank can only be worked on, is that it?
It'll be on that fund. yes.
Okay, all right, but anyway, all right.
The Veterans Memorial
Yeah.
Fund.
If you get a chance to go out and look at it, there's a big cannon sitting there too, and got the memorial thing, got names on it, and the tank is sitting there, so anyway, you make a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Ricky, second, any discussion? All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
And
Opposed?
I'll abstain,
Okay.
since I'm the commander of the American Legion.
All right, that'd be fine. All righty, so we're gonna take a break here, we'll adjourn to the budget workshop. Anybody have anything else? All right, we can come back when we get through eating.
You want